Oh my gosh.
Get your questions answered. There's plenty of time.
Are you trying to reconcile numbers too?
I'm trying to just understand what they mean.
Oh.
I just happened by accident to be in the room when these guys were doing some budget stuff. And I just stepped back and I asked my question, but I just listened and I went, oh, I am so glad I heard this because it's crunching the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was actually really good to be involved with. Hi, sorry.
Oh, I like that. Talk better than mine.
Not terribly accurate. Hey, Darren.
Yes, sir.
Should I start the video on this? Is it hooked up to the phone? I guess I gotta probably tell it that when we get to choose. Go to
So, hi, everybody.
Hello, Princess. Hello, how are you?
I told my sister, she said, we were trying to reach you, and I said, I have told you before, Tuesday covered really bad day. And she's like, well, we're trying, it's about Mom. And I said, oh, you mean like on Sunday when you didn't show up, and I did? That did not go over well. That did not. I'm trying to be snarky to my sisters, they're masters. And I just, well, we're here now, and you're not. I said, I can't be there. Are you telling me to get in the car and drive up right now? I'm sorry, I have a kind of a big board meeting. Well, which is more important to do than... I'm not sure how to answer that. You declared yesterday Mom had stroke.
I think I've known you.
What is
pretty
it?
close.
Yeah, I think it's been about that long.
Because I said, when was Mom's last camera?
She's virtually back now.
Well, we haven't given it to her yet because we're feeding her. No, that's the right answer. Oh, here it is.
So, Tyler, do we have...
What is this guy?
Okay, so that one is, so you've got your total costs, and then however much, that's your margin after. So that's this subtracted.
Because it
from
talks
that.
about a subsidy, and I don't,
Right,
I
and
guess
so that's gonna be under here, so this is earnings before income tax, dividends, I don't remember what the A is. So this is gonna be, like, this is where, like, what you would need to kind of subsidy.
well, and
to add
it's
your
good that
stuff
this
on.
goes down.
Yeah, when it's up here, that means we have to put more. The longer and the more things we bring, the less we're gonna have to do. We're gonna be bringing in more each year. It goes up. Our costs are gonna go up because, you bring in more staff and more equipment. But, you're making enough of a, kind of a headroom that you're gonna start seeing a smaller, need for subsidies. So that'd be like
So what
taxes
is,
and.
I didn't look it up, I'm sorry.
So
What's a
subsidy would be
subsidy?
like LGIP funds, that would be our tax subsidy. So like for youth programs,
Oh.
whatever money
No,
they
I think the...
brought in by just the revenue, sometimes get refunded by just tax money, grant money, things like that.
Should resize when you have your...
That kind of makes
Did
sense.
our, and
Rick, you there?
aside,
Mhm.
did our temper money show up?
Can you hear us?
I'm here. Double check.
Okay, we're gonna get started in just a minute. I just wanna make sure that we have good audio.
Some early, and then
Because it's
I
like
think we're
this in
still
my
waiting
packet.
on some tax money.
Okay.
It's
They,
like
I know they
this in my
definitely
packet.
kind of
We get done with
periodically
financials.
come, and we're still
And
receiving,
it's just a...
some, we got some. So.
So this type of thing in a parentheses, this is normal.
Yeah,
Right?
it's just gonna be what we would need to put in.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, no.
Darren,
Oh, no.
thank you.
Uh-oh.
Next
What is
time I'm
that?
coming to you
We give,
first.
our employee of the month a frame.
It broke?
And, your glass broke.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
I will rectify this and
Oh,
we'll
no
get you your
worries.
framed certificate shortly. Sorry.
No worries.
I don't know
It's just a puzzle.
Yeah, there we go.
Puzzle.
I like puzzles.
A sharp puzzle.
Yeah, be careful with that. It's more than my puzzle, it's beautiful.
Do we have Erica? No, Erica?
She said she would see me tonight. I'm
Okay.
not sure. Yes.
Okay,
I'm
well,
assuming she's on her way.
okay. Just like me, childcare issues, sorry, everybody. Okay, let's go call to order. And there she is. Perfect
Sorry.
timing. No, that's good, I was late too. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Declaration of potential conflict of interest. Erica.
None.
Sue.
None.
Les. None. Mike.
I don't believe so.
None for myself. Fabulous. Moving right along. Audit results.
Yeah, so we have Rick from Kernan Thompson here with us. Thank you, Rick, for taking some time. And I know the board hopefully had some time to look over the audit, but I'm just going to turn the time over to Rick. He can share what he wants to share, and then if you have questions, I know he has another commitment. Would you say, Rick, 5:45 or 5 around then?
About 6:50 or so, but I'm
6:50?
making
Oh.
time for you,
Go
so
ahead.
I appreciate you accommodating me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Can everybody hear me okay? A little better than when I heard back from you, but can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Okay. Again, my name is Rick Prue. I'm with Kernan Thompson, their auditors. This is the second year that we perform the audit. Of course, these first 2 years during the COVID pandemic, what a time to get acquainted with your new auditors and that sort of thing. So they're obviously that's the basic cause for the delays, I think. And most of our clients, and we hear from other CPA firms too, we appreciate your patience and Skylar and his team for working with us. And so what you have before you, or you've hopefully seen, is our independent auditors report. I'm just going to kind of skim through some highlights of the report. So if you were to go to, because everybody has a copy of it, if you go to page 1 to the independent auditors report, okay, you'll see an independent auditors report. There's a lot of paragraphs there. It basically talks about, it's our report on the financial statements, what management's responsibility is, what our responsibility as auditors is, and then toward the bottom of that page, you'll see a paragraph entitled opinions, plural. This is basically the main part of the report card. It says, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the government activities in each major fund of the Sunset Empire Park and Recreation District as of June 30th, 2021. So basically what that means is a clean opinion in layman's terms. The dollar amounts are accurately recorded, they're reported in the right period, they're presented appropriately, the captions are correct, they're complete, and the disclosures that follow the numbers, the set of numbers, if you will, that talk about the accounting policies and certain other accounting things, those are complete in accordance with general accepted accounting principles as well. Now, it's a long, it's a 2-page report. At the end of the second page, on page 2, just above where I've signed the report, you'll see a paragraph that says report on other legal and regulatory requirements. So as a governmental body in the state of Oregon, you're subject to what's called the Oregon Minimum Audit Standards. So at the end of the report is another kind of an audit opinion, if you will, on our test of compliance with specific things. And I can tell you right now that report, so you don't have to read it all night long, is also a clean opinion, if you will, as far as your compliance with Oregon's laws and regulations. And that includes things like how your budget is prepared, the compliance with insurance requirements, your cash is maintained in a qualified depository. We test transactions, the system of internal controls and those types of things. So that's kind of all together is what the audit report is all about. Kind of to get a bird's eye view, if you go to starting on page 3 is what's called the management's discussion and analysis. If you go a couple pages back to page 5, you'll see it's entitled Government-Wide Overall Financial Analysis. This is kind of a big bird's eye view of the balance sheet, the financial condition of the district as of its fiscal year end. And it's kind of in comparative form, so you see 2021 versus 2020, and that's fiscal year basis, of course. And the big change, no surprise, is in capital assets. There's quite an increase there because of the purchase of the Broadway School as your new recreation center. And then corresponding with that, you'll see under non-current liabilities also a big increase, and it's about $2.5 million as well. So that's the biggest impact on the financial statements was the acquisition of your facility. On the next page, you'll see kind of a bird's eye view, if you will, of the P&L, the profit and loss, or the revenues and expenses for the year, also in comparative form. And if we had 2019 lined up with this, yeah, you would see things a little bit differently because, of course, with 2020 and into 21, you know, the years covering the pandemic, your revenues dropped, you know, substantially, other than property taxes. Those remain constant because there's, you know, the property taxes have to be legally collected and they're set and assessed by the assessor. But the charges for services, they remain pretty stable those couple of years, although they're lower than what they were before. And I think we would all expect that they're going to increase in the future as now things are opening up. And the expense, you can see that more in the expenses, especially the first line administration. You'll see that it's increased quite a bit from 2020 to 21. In 2020, I think almost everything was basically shut down. In 21, things started ramping up again. And so the expense categories picked up. And there's the new line, the Sunset Recreation Center, the expenses starting with some of the operations and gearing up for that. And then, you know, for both years, despite the pandemic situation, you'll see the line that says change in net position. That's the excess of revenues over expenses. So there's kind of, if you will, like a net income for each year that increased the entity's equity. Those are the main things I wanted to point out on the financials. The complete financials start on page 9 with the statement of net position, and they go through page 14. So there's, in a governmental entity, there's what's called the statement of net position. It's what we would, in accounting terms or financial reporting, would say this is the complete balance sheet because it includes, it recognizes your fixed assets, your buildings and equipment, as well as debt related to that. And in governmental, a few pages back, you'll see a governmental balance sheet, and that does not have the capital assets or the fixed debt because those are treated as expenditures and kind of sources of financial inflows on a government side. So governments are unique in that they present their financial statements in both ways. But the first two pages kind of present, you know, it as a whole. And these statements also include the activities of the foundation, which mainly consist of, they hold some investments and have some, a little bit of fundraising costs in there. And I think you're pretty well aware of how pretty much how the year went for the fiscal year. So, and I'll come back to this with questions if you want. I don't want to go line by line because I know you also have your own agendas here. The other things I just want to hit, if you would go back to page 22 in the financial statements, as you get there, you'll see these are the disclosures, where the disclosures pick up. They actually pick up before that. And the disclosures talk about the accounting policies and, you know, things that are peculiar to a governmental entity and how the accounting works for that. And that's important stuff. But what I wanted to highlight here was this is your cash and investments page. And kind of in the middle of the page is where you see the foundation's investments. And they're comprised of, you know, these categories of exchange traded funds, mutual funds, and some brokered cash. And they're subject to what we call a fair value hierarchy. And this is just basically just a categorization. It's not a measure or a grade, if you will, the type of investments they are. It's just kind of a required disclosure. And, you know, when for other users, mostly if banks or bond underwriters will look at this a little bit. But it basically just presents the information. So you can see what investments are held by the foundation. And part of that includes, and then in addition to that, there's a beneficial interest in some assets held under the Oregon Community Foundation. So the investments of $133,000 combined with that $34,000 is basically the main assets held in the foundation. If you go to the next page, you'll see on page 23, there's detail of what makes up the capital assets and the long-term liabilities of the district. And just kind of pointing out again, and you'll see there's a table there. It shows beginning balance, increase, decreases, ending balance. And the first line item there, the buildings, pool, and improvements, that includes, you'll see the big increase there. That's the acquisition, of course, of the recreation center. And then there's depreciation computed on that. And this basically reconciles back to the balance sheet side. And then note E, you'll see long-term liabilities. Again, there's a table beginning additions, reductions, and ending balance and what's due in 1 year. And the debt that financed the acquisition of that, $2.5 million, you'll see that as an addition there. So it's for the reader, kind of tells what they, what happened during the year with the big assets and liabilities that affect the district. There's other disclosures in here as well. There's the next page shows the future maturities of that debt over the term of the debt and some other things. But I just want you to skip now over to page 25. If you go to page 25, this is a presentation where I typically call the budget to actual statement. So this is a required statement. Starts with you're on a fund accounting. What the first part of the financial statements present the district as a whole. It's all its funds and activities in one fell swoop, if you will, including the foundation. And now these two statements, page 25, 26 through 28, are the budget to actual statements. So these are required to show because you're required to set a budget, and you have an original budget. You may make some changes during the year, which result in a final budget. And then it compares it to the actual and shows the variance. You'll see the revenues and expenditures split out and coming down to increases or decreases over fund balance. That far column, the variance, you might see some amounts that may be negatives, but in total, the good news is the revenues exceeded what was budgeted. And then the expenditure column, pretty much the same thing. The expenditures are pretty well within what the budgets are, with the exception of one line item that has to do with the debt service. It's part of the interest costs. But in total, your total expenditures were below what was budgeted. So you're within the compliance with Oregon minimum standards, which is a good thing. And then the general fund is kind of the main fund there, of course. The next few pages, there's not much to do with the capital fund because the acquisition of the property went through a new fund. But in the future, this is where you may budget for other improvements and things, changes like to fix up the pool and things of that nature. The Broadway Field Fund is kind of what it is as well, and you've seen the budgets for that. And with the pandemic, there, of course, wasn't a lot of activity. On page 28, you'll see the Sunset Recreation Center Fund. So this is new for the year. It didn't originally have a budget, but wound up with what's called a supplemental budget to create one for it, and there's a result there. So these are all basically just required by the state of Oregon and government standards, pretty much. The last thing I just want to show you is if you skip over to page 29, there's that other report. It's the other part of the auditor's report on what we call the Oregon minimum standards, a report required by Oregon state regulations. So this is kind of a compliance thing. So we look at the things, if you see in the middle of the page, these are basically the criteria that are applicable to the district, deposit of public funds, and debt limitations and repayment and things of that. That you have to have a legally adopted budget, that you have insurance in place, if you have any programs funded by outside sources, authorized investments, public contracts and purchasing. So we look at each of these areas and do tests to make sure that the activities are in compliance with Oregon standards. And as the report says, nothing in connection with our testing, nothing came to our attention that indicated that there was anything not in compliance with Oregon regulations. We kind of do this in connection with our review of internal controls as part of any part of the audit. So, in short, this is also a clean part of the opinion, a clean part of the report card overall for the district. So I know I go through these pretty fast, but I want to make sure I hit the high points for you, and I'm happy to answer questions or comments.
I, for one, appreciate all the information. I mean, it's very thorough, so thank you very much for your expertise. Not my forte.
And I mean, we were involved in picking you last year, and I just appreciate that we picked right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. That's very kind.
I have one question, if I could. I'm wondering, and I think I heard you right. Did I hear that the foundation funding, the foundation revenue and expenses show up in the balance sheet? Is that correct? Or in the page 25?
The foundation's assets and liabilities are included on in that summary schedule and on page 9, as well as page 11, so the balance sheet. And then the foundation's revenue and expenditures are included in that page 10, the revenues and expenditures there for the entity as a whole, as well as on page 13. And if you can see a little bit more clear, if you look on page 11 and page 13, that's where there's actually a separation between, we call it the general fund, but it's basically all the activities of the district apart from the foundation. And then the foundation is considered like a separate fund, if you will. And so those two columns together combine into the total.
Okay, and just to be sure, is that, is that sort of normal that a foundation, that we would have the foundation funding sitting such in close proximity or sort of commingled in with, as a fund with the Park and Rec districts? Or is it usually is there more separation?
It's basically it's presented this way to show a separation, but that the foundation is under the control of the district, so it's really part of the reporting entity. So it's considered what would be called kind of a component unit, if you will. So it's its own entity, but it's controlled by the district, and that's why it's combined here in the financial statements.
Okay.
It's shown separately, but it's not subject to a budgetary. So there isn't in the back there isn't a budgetary schedule for the foundation.
I see. Okay, very good. Thank you.
No, okay.
Foundation looks better than I thought.
Better than you thought it was going to turn out. That's good.
Looking at the investments, we don't hear about the investments too much, but we've been concerned about the principal being drawn down. But it looks like
yes.
Totally.
Well, I think the district has invested in a new accounting system, some software that it was a little bit difficult to get it up and going, but I think Darren and Chris, kind of have the handle on it now. Going forward, they're going to be able to provide you, pretty good reporting, I would think, going forward. Just another side note, throughout the year, and we try to make ourselves available to our clients, for questions certainly. So, I'll hear from Chris or Darren if they have a question on accounting or how to apply something. But we're also available to you, as those in charge of governance, to Skylar and you as the board, if you have questions or concerns of a financial nature that may impact your financial statements. We don't want our clients to be afraid to contact us, so we don't charge for phone calls or to answer questions. So, if something's going to turn into a project, then we'll talk about it. But we don't want anybody to be afraid to ask questions, and it's always better to know things going on before we get to the audit time you know, to minimize or eliminate any surprises. So, or I'm available to you at that point, and Skylar knows that, I hope, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Chris and Darren.
Yeah.
Yes, give them both of those guys a big pat on the back.
You can come on the screen if you want, Chris.
Okay, I wasn't sure if they were there.
They're just in a different part of the room.
We've had enough screens on
They've
it.
done that.
He's seen enough of that.
Any other questions? Any further discussion? I'm looking at you, Sue.
I have a really interesting question. I read this thing, every line.
Good?
Am I not supposed to do that?
No, absolutely you do
Sure,
that.
yeah.
I mean, it's, okay, I just,
I think,
next year.
In my experience, your approach is probably more uncommon, but, it's great.
I mean, I have to,
And I bet Rick
I
appreciates it.
I have to go do my budget report now.
Yeah.
Page.
I looked over every page myself.
Yeah.
I think it's important.
I just thought, wow, am I not supposed to do that? I would take I'd find something else to do.
Skylar, what's the internal control part, or Darren, or just in that last kind of like
Page, what page are you
OAR?
on?
Yeah.
Page what?
It's the independent auditors, or 29.
Mm-hmm.
Rick, did you hear, Erica's question?
Well, what I'm wondering,
No,
are you saying that there is a bit of a deficiency in that particular piece?
Yeah, maybe you're asking about the last sentence.
Yeah,
on
that last
page.
it kind of goes, it's actually into a few paragraphs, so it's just,
which page are we talking about?
the very 29, so.
Yeah, but it says down here, when it says, we did not identify any deficiencies.
Well, that are considered material weaknesses, so I'm just,
Excuse me.
Oh, okay, so this is brief, basically it's, kind of accountant CYA, so this language you'll see in any kind of a compliance report, basically it describes, we have to give you the definition of what a deficiency is, what a significant deficiency is, and what a material weakness is. And, while we're, an audit is not a 100% test of everything. It's a kind of a calculated risk base, where we look at certain transactions or certain compliance things. We don't look at every single instance.
Yeah.
So there, something could occur that could slip through our audit testing, and that's what the caveat is there.
Okay.
That we didn't find any material weaknesses, but there could be some that are unknown, and we're just required to say something like that. But for the most part, I think the system is in place that would, where management would be able to detect or correct or at least prevent those things in advance. And that's you want to have a shield. Not every shield's going to be, things can go around a shield, of course, but if you got a good shield in place, you're going to be able to basically fend off all the arrows that are going to hit you. Does that make sense?
yeah, like from your perspective, then what do you see as those kind of barriers right now, or like positive things that the district is doing to prevent those things? Like, what are kind of the top?
Well, I think one of the main things is basically having a new, more modern accounting system in place. The software, it has its challenges, but it does provide a lot of data, and I think getting it set up the way that Darren and Chris have been able to work with your IT people, it's gonna pay off in the long run, because it's gonna provide real-time information on what were your disbursements for the week, for the month, for the day. You can pin it down to each project and identify things, so that you can identify. The more information you can identify and categorize, the better your financial reporting will be. The fact that you do have more than one person's eyes on the numbers and on the transaction flows, that provides a level of control, just a second set of eyes that a separation of duties, if you will, between the record keeping, the authorization, and the custody of assets. So those are all good things that you have going for you.
Do you ever see,
and
like...
Those are always the top things that I look for, when I just, start looking at an audit each year.
Do you see, like, this type of size of governmental, entity having, like, internal audit often, or is that not something, or that could be for you, Skylar, too, but I don't know how often that happens at this size.
Yeah, you're really not, for the size that the district is, it's probably not practical to have like what I would think of as a true internal audit. That's really more for really large organizations,
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, we're here. Sorry, we got disconnected for a sec, but you can keep talking or just pause for 1 sec. Not sure why this.
I almost got to it.
It's not just Chris doing all the accounting by himself.
Yeah.
Darren is overseeing things, and Skylar has to approve things, and you have by the board, you have your budgetary process, and you see the bills every month, and those are all things that you want to have in place for a good set of controls.
Okay.
So I have a question because I heard part of what you said, but Darren, isn't Darren overseeing Chris as he gets up to, and then eventually it'll just be Chris?
Not necessarily. The organizational structure has Darren, as his title is Director of Operations. He oversees the finance department. Chris is the finance manager. So Chris is doing most of the day-to-day things with the finance department. But part of the reasons why we wanted that structure is because we didn't know what caliber of finance manager we'd be able to recruit and hire, and Chris has been awesome. Good job, Chris. And he's learning his new duties really well, and I think he's going to be great. We still want that supervision over that position, and having that extra person to fill in for Chris if he's gone, and also just like Rick said, I think it's good to have more than one set of eyes on this important area of the district.
Now, is that a change with Marcus's departure?
It happened right around the same time as Marcus's departure. Yeah, we were moving that direction, and then it all just kind of lined up that way, happenstance, but.
Sounds like fortuitous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would add that having that layer is really an improvement to your overall system, and it's hard for an entity of your size to be able to provide that, but I think it's important, and the fact that it's in place it's much more comforting to me as an auditor, for one thing, because the better the controls are, the less riskier things are when we test things. And I have to sign the audit report, so if it looks like my signature is a little shaky, that's how you can tell. Pretty smooth signature sign. I think you should be pretty well assured.
Any other questions, comments, concerns?
I looked at your signature and I said, do you know any doctors? And I'm a nurse, so I've seen a few, and I was noticing your signature was like, wow, okay, I could pull this letter out and that letter out. Anyway, and we didn't always have everything in the computer. You had to decipher all the words on written orders, so I looked at people's signatures because of that.
Well, and my printed signature has to be there as well, so I can't get away with anything. So.
I'm thankful for this good work, and I would make a motion that the board accept this report for the record 2021.
Thank you, Mike. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Sue. All in favor, signify aye. Opposed, nay. Erica?
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Celeste?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rick.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all, and I look forward to working with you again in the next audit, and you enjoyed your meeting, and again, if you ever have any questions, you know how to find me.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for your time.
Okay,
Thanks, Rick.
thank you all. Good night.
Thank you.
For public comment, I know we need to check to make sure we don't have anybody watching. Is that working at the moment?
Yeah, it is. We don't have anybody that had asked to join the meeting room for public comment. We were using the same link for Rick as for public comment.
Okay, perfect.
Nobody.
And public comment? No? Good?
Good.
All right, moving on. Correspondence. I did see, I have to jog my memory.
Yeah, you have one item of correspondence. It's a letter from the assistants lead.
Yes, that's right.
They, through Celeste, they actually contacted us and were asking about possibly some partnership with some space at the SRC for a program that they run.
Cinderella's Closet.
Yeah, and they're
I'm
kind of
familiar with.
looking for space, and I met with a couple of the representatives last week and showed them a few of the potential spots, and I shared with them at that time that this would probably be the next step in that process, is sending a letter to the board requesting an opportunity to speak more or requesting some space. I'm open to
How much
questions, conversation.
space are they needing?
So I think that is kind of,
How much space?
when
does
we went into
Dresses
a classroom, they said, oh, this classroom is perfect.
take? Okay.
I don't know if they necessarily need an entire classroom, but I'm not sure how we would, unless we wanted to divide a classroom right now for them.
700 dresses.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
and
but-
how do we protect the 700 dresses from critters and things like that?
Yeah, that's
Are we
a great
liable for that?
I don't know, those are probably questions that if we proceeded, we would have to work out with them. They may have, some safeguards in place to protect their dresses. I don't know how it works necessarily.
Do they pay a rent where they were currently, the building was sold?
They may, but, my impression was that if they do pay rent, they don't pay much rent. I think they have an arrangement with a place in Warrenton right now, but they need to find a new place. And the place that they're storing their dresses currently, they can't show the dresses. So they have to transport the dresses to another location to show them to, the people that might use their service and even like try them on, which I think presents some challenge for them as an organization.
Right.
Yeah, but my understanding is they don't need full-time display space, but it would be nice if it was adjacent to a storage space or something so that they didn't have to. If I recall correctly, they said maybe 4 or 5 times a year, they actually have like an
Yeah.
open.
Yeah, I think it's for like homecoming, the winter dance, and prom. And they try to kind of coordinate with the
And 5 high schools.
schools, yeah, so it's around the same time for all 5 schools.
And their previous place, the space was donated.
Oh, okay. Didn't say that, and I missed it.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
Okay.
What's staff's opinion, and do we have the space available to them, and I assume we cannot accept any liability for the storage of the dresses.
Yeah, I'd agree there. I think, I haven't shared this with staff partly because we have had a very busy week or so, and we've had at least one of the key staff that needs to be involved in this discussion has been out sick. So they might be hearing about this for the first time when we read the packet. It'd be my position that this might be something that we could explore, but it would need to be temporary.
Yeah.
As we, we're trying to keep those spaces flexible and use them for other things that might be more in line with our mission. But I can approach these fine folks and get some of those questions answered, see how the arrangement might work, if the board would like me to.
I'm also wondering if it would make more sense for it not to be at the rec center. Like, are there other buildings, other assets where there's other storage? I don't know how your storage space is used, or if there's space that's not used for recreation, that might be a consideration.
Yeah. That's a great
Make more
question.
sense.
When are we moving whatever goes on in the back room from the big entry
Pottery?
area?
Yeah.
When are we moving that over? And is that would that be considered a good space for that? For something like that?
Potentially, I mean, I think there might be some options here eventually, or maybe at the Mary Blake. There's not as much storage space right now for probably either of those locations, but they might be more ideal for this type of thing. We're probably not going to relocate pottery or any other program to the SRC until we kind of have everything lined up with our occupancy, making sure that we have the building staffed and supervised at a level that we're comfortable with. And then pottery and all of the other programs that will be relocated there, we have to kind of build up the infrastructure in those spaces to make sure, pottery, for instance, needs certain things provided in the room that we place them in. So I think we're a ways away from a lot of that happening. That's our plan, but probably a ways away still.
Does our certificate of occupancy affect the use of any of these spaces where the dresses might be stored?
I don't think it would if we were to jump ahead and you could see the strategic plan. There's a map or an outline of the space, kind of as SEA has designed so far, and that's the same rough mapping of how the building is going to be used when they're working on our occupancy. So it includes at least 2 or 3 classrooms near the northwest corner that are kind of designed for flexible space or could be adapted for something like this potentially, or for a different partner, or for our purposes. We do have a lot of stuff that's stored in those rooms right now, and I think we'll need to, if we were to move forward with this arrangement or something
We
else.
still have surplus furniture and all
Plenty
that?
of, furniture and probably things that are going to be harder to sell. We'll see.
I kind of don't, I mean, I love what they're doing. I just don't really feel like we're in a place to say yes to something like this right now. I just think that it'd be kind of burdensome. I could foresee it being burdensome to them if we have to say, hey, unfortunately, in 3 months we have to move this stuff because we now need the space. You know what I mean? I just don't think we don't have a good lockdown on what we're using things for, and then just to, like I said, I think it could be a burden for them as well. If we have to move
Are
it.
you talking about the peachy
Yep.
colored stuff?
Yep. And part of the green that's in that corner hasn't necessarily been designated for use
I
either.
could see maybe offering the service, if they are unable to find someplace to go before they have to be out of that building. I don't know what their timeline is, because they realistically wouldn't need to offer their services until school resumes.
Sure.
So if they just need a place to store the dresses until they find another space, I could see us maybe providing that service. Long term, I don't know that we're necessarily the best fit. I do love what they do. I mean, working at the high school, I see the impact that they have, and it's fabulous.
Mhm.
So I'm hopeful that they can find the perfect spot for them.
Do they wear these to the snowball dances and stuff?
Yeah, so the high schoolers, my high school, they just went yesterday, and they take a bus and they go up and they get to try on all the dresses and they have lunch and they come back and, they get to go to prom on Saturday. So it's a big deal, and it has an impact on our community for sure.
Yeah, I mean, part of why I like it is because it serves young people, and
Yeah.
so, and so my hope would be, but I don't know how your storage works, is if it could be in a shared storage space or someplace where it's not I'm not crazy, and I think I'm with Erica on this, I'm not crazy about it taking up our recreation space, right? That is why we bought the SRC, but if there was storage space that could then where stuff could be pulled out and not have it be an impact where it's taking up usable recreation space, I think I'd be interested in that piece because it serves young people. I also, looking at the letter, I would just inquire as to whether, I guess I am interested in making sure that all of the youth stuff that we're supporting is inclusive, and so I would wonder if this is inclusive or if they're interested in making it inclusive so that, clothing is available to boys too.
Sure.
And transgender youth.
I was thinking like under the bleachers, but it's like nobody would want to go try on a dress under the bleachers.
Well, but they could
Pull 'em out.
pull them out and use the library.
Well,
Right,
The
pull it
question
out.
is, how
The old
much
weight
space
room?
does 7
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think I'd want to try
Like,
to
what
dress
is that?
No, but
Yeah.
if you could pull them
That
out
might be
and
good.
set up a pop-up for a day. Yeah.
This is a moisture problem down there.
When we
But then
toured,
it's kind of like, this is the spot we have available.
isn't there like the space that was gonna be pottery, and if it's not coming for a year, why can't we, I mean, and isn't there like a long area that's just storage? In like maybe around where the, I mean, I just know the old.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably 6 classrooms right now that we could reconfigure or, allocate space for this thing if we want. And then there's a couple probably less desirable locations, like under the bleachers and under the stage. And I don't know if those,
I like that idea.
under the stage, or under the bleachers.
Well, I just like it because for 95% of the year, it just is storage.
Yeah.
And you can pull them
Well,
out
actually,
into
you
a
don't
big.
have stuff there right now. So
Yeah,
Are
so
you
Just
not?
what was left down
Yeah,
there. that
so
we haven't
it's like
gotten
you
out.
wouldn't have to move your stuff.
Right, and so, and I like that because what I hesitate to do is to lock up a classroom that isn't
Yeah.
gonna get used for 95% of the time, for this purpose. And, I also think it's harder to move people out of a classroom's a fabulous space, there's no question about it, but it's also fabulous for yoga and
Sure.
whatever else you're gonna do. And so I hate to lock up a room.
What if you said like, we will rent that under the bleacher space, but you guys need to like rent the gym, you need to pay to rent the gym those days,
Yeah.
and you need to bring like changing stalls.
Is there fire protection under there?
I
Under the
don't
bleachers?
know, yeah.
It's
I would
probably as
assume
much
that
as
would be-
bleachers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As much fire
Whatever
protection
exists in the
as
big gym is probably run down there. I think that's a,
But they could then like rent the space, that could
Right,
be
for that
their
day.
donation of some sort.
and they would be responsible for storing, like,
Their-
if they want to bring like large things
Yeah,
to
they
hang
need
the
to-
dresses on.
yeah.
Assuming the
Yeah.
dresses are hung mostly.
Probably.
I don't know.
I
how.
imagine
They
they're
should
in
put
like
them
brown
in
bags.
plastic and like,
Yeah.
Yeah, they should.
because it, we should take like no liability
Yeah.
for whatever happens, you know?
Okay.
So what?
So I didn't even show them down there.
What am
For lots of
I thinking
reasons.
of that's got like, by where the science rooms were?
Yeah, that room
Isn't
has a
that
lot of
like-
stuff stored in it right now for our special events and,
Okay.
Most of the rooms have a lot
But-
of
Yeah.
stuff.
But could you even store if you have storage space, is there a reason you couldn't just store partial of it?
There's, no, I just, I guess I wanna, so part of it is like I wanna protect our asset for sure and,
Yeah.
but I don't want anything to happen to their stuff and we've, like that part of the building where we have, 1,000 kids on a Saturday of PBL, we've had people like find their way into those rooms and, leave us little surprises and things like that. So I just wouldn't want anything like that to happen to this valuable commodity that they've worked hard to acquire and maintain.
Well,
So I think maybe a different location where we can ensure that it's safe and secure might be better. And it might not be as desirable, but if they're, like I said, if they're only using it 3 or 4 times a year,
So I think the big questions are, how much space do they actually need for their gowns? We would take no liability responsibility for ensuring safety of said gowns. And then they can, rent the gym or rent space. I even think just like the library would be a nice, because you could put some stalls up, rent a space for the few days that they need. Yeah, I mean,
Well, isn't the library gonna be turned into the cardio?
that's what the plan calls for, but.
Well, but-
What year?
yeah.
There is that good sized storage room off the library, and that might be, I think if you did it right, you could put a lot of dresses.
I am curious about a phrase they have here. They give a boutique experience. So is
Well,
that,
it's dress, shoes, and accessories.
I mean, so you get to come pick all that and have mirrors, so we need to provide, they need to provide
No,
mirrors?
They're providing everything.
The whole thing.
Okay.
I think they need to move stuff where they need to go and.
Are they looking for makeup and stuff like that as well?
I don't believe so.
I don't know what, I mean, to me, boutique is kind of.
But I don't, we're not gonna be responsible for any of that.
I think they recognize
Yeah,
that.
state.
They know our role is not doing that stuff, and
Yeah.
they're comfortable
We have an
providing
old,
that, yeah.
I mean, we're talking about the old weight room. No.
Very
Boutique
very
experience is
vintage,
out the
yeah.
window.
The city owns the old
But I think that would
Lutheran
just,
church over here, and it's got a whole sanctuary which cannot be used for the public.
oh,
Why couldn't that be used for
Yeah.
storage?
I was thinking that there's, well, we could
I wonder
probably
why
have
that
weight.
church wasn't working.
But I'm sure there's no fire protection.
all right.
I was in it years ago.
Let me, work with them and, report
Well,
back.
and I just wanted to comment, the Assistance League has a really good reputation, so if there's something positive
Yeah.
in the supporters of this program.
Yeah, when I led them on the tour, or just showed them a few of the spaces, I guess, they indicated that there was, some opportunities for them to come in. There's a bunch of books that they wanted to distribute out to schools and people that needed them, and, they wanted to help us with surplus sale or help, with, you know, kind of helping a garage sale or that kind of thing. So it seemed like they're very, my impression was very strong of them, that they're just like good people and wanted to find a good spot for their program, but I think there might be some other partnership, even if we don't explore that.
They do a lot to support the students in various ways, so. Okay, moving right along to the most important part of the night, recognition of the SEPRD Employee of the Month, Ms. Jennifer McAllister. Jennifer has been with us 6 years, and I think I've known you that long. I met Jennifer first through the preschool program as the most amazing, calm, compassionate person ever. That is the most craziest environment, and you maintain always. Miss Redding, Erin Redding, the youth programs coordinator, nominated her, and she has been an influential teacher in the Learning Ladder Preschool, in addition to being an essential member of our youth programs team. She has the patience of a saint, which I agree with, and is one of the most caring, passionate, and understanding people I have ever met. So very, very excited to say that you are Employee of the Month.
Thank you,
Jen.
thank you so much.
We have a almost screen.
Sorry about the
Oh,
rain.
no worries.
Make it up to you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Jen,
Thank
for all you do. My children love you.
Oh, and I love them.
And you don't have to stay for the rest of this meeting.
Yeah, no,
You are excused. Approval of the board meeting minutes from March. Has everybody had a chance to read the board meeting minutes from March, which are buried in this packet?
Yes.
Yeah, that was quite interesting. Like, oh, look, there they are.
I know.
Right.
Thought the minutes were well written.
There it is. I found it.
I read everything for them, wherever they are.
I had no changes, edits, comments this time. I was impressed.
I do.
Oh, Sue has one.
Well, I do
Wait.
want to just remind people, the May 17th, I'm over there
You
Yeah.
know.
for a third meeting. Okay.
We'll figure out a time that works, and we'll be successful. We'll be all right.
It'll be fine. I see.
Okay, not used to being two places at once.
Anyone have any comments or concerns or questions or motions?
I move we accept these minutes for March 29th,
I second.
2022.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Sue. All in favor signify aye, opposed nay. Erica?
I. You got me confused.
Did you say?
Oh, I said I.
Oh,
You said
you.
I. I'm like,
I heard I.
Yeah, I. Sue?
I.
Bless? Mike?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
I'm like,
I'm like,
All right.
Can you also do the workshop minutes? Those two, sorry, I didn't know.
I'm getting there.
Sorry.
I'm moving pages.
All right.
All right, approval of board workshop minutes from March and April. Do we have April?
Yeah,
We had
I have
the
April.
budget.
those are pretty
well,
straightforward.
we have the March 29th
It's on the back.
Oh, it's on the back.
Yeah.
I missed that part.
and April 4th.
Okay.
I really appreciate I'm marked as present. When I came in, like, Sue, get down here. Okay.
You were present?
I was, but
All right, so, minutes from March. Questions, comments, concerns, motions?
I move we accept these workshop minutes for March 29th.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Sue. You guys are on a roll. All in favor signify aye, opposed nay. Erica?
Aye.
Sue?
I,
Celeste? Aye. Mike? Aye. Motion carries. Minutes from April meeting, workshop. Questions, comments, concerns, motions?
Pretty straightforward, there's nothing new there. We did have that interview, and I move we accept those minutes.
Thank you, Mike. Go ahead, Sue.
Yeah.
I was partly not there.
So, all right, Celeste.
You were partly not there?
Yeah, see, I drove down for the end of it. It's like,
Oh.
dude, get down here. Okay.
You made it somewhere,
You,
though.
you,
I
you did.
Because look, I made a
You
comment.
made it to Skylar's office.
All in favor signify aye, opposed nay. Erica?
Aye.
Sue?
Hi.
Celeste? Aye. Mike?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. All right, there we go.
You gotta get your computer working.
Oh, God, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do.
Better call Saul.
I think we gotta call, like, somebody higher up in the ranks of heaven.
Father Gooch?
Yes, my child.
Thank you.
I mean, Spectrum said it's all fixed, and I went, no.
All right, review of the financials from March.
Oh.
So I have a question or two.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I have one question based on several numbers here on page, oh golly, whatever this page is,
The revenue and expense report? Does it look like?
through March 31st.
Yes. Go ahead.
So, because it's not numbered. So basically, when you, I mean, we're doing really well. My question is, when the remaining amount in the budget is negative, where are you allowed, like for special events, we're gonna still have the prom run, we're gonna do, you know, things, we're gonna spend money,
Sure.
but we're making money. So this is a negative number. How do we make it right for the money we're gonna spend to bring in money when it's already negative?
Sure. Sorry, I think I got your question, but, so basically, if you look down at the percentage, which, that gray column, you'll see for each, budget, you'll see the percentage, and for special events, that's a good example, so 88.78% of the budget is used right now, and it is possible that we could go over, but I also think we've had an abundance of special events and things like that, so it may level itself out. Some of the lines kind of, they don't always move with the calendar, in line with the calendar, so if we deviate from more than 10% of that budget, then we have to come to the board and come to the public and try to adopt a supplemental budget to show that we're going to move the funds from area A to special events to cover for those expenses
I
that we
mean,
didn't.
I expect there's gonna be T-shirts for the prom run. So where do we get to take that money from with the idea that teams are gonna come in and bring money when we already were at what, our percent used this year is 162%?
Sure. So, I mean, and a lot of that is because we have more sponsorship revenue for those special events than we expected. So with that revenue came opportunities to enhance our special events through greater marketing, more swag, a better presence, and this or that. So it will, I'm not gonna say this is where we'll take the money from, because I don't think we're necessarily in that position, or I think that's, for me, that's not the way that we were looking at it. But we'll comply with government standards and what we need to do as a public body. But I think we'll be in a better financial position once we're through this next month or so. And if we do get in a position where in June we need to adopt a supplemental budget, we can. Overall, though, I guess from our perspective, and maybe I'm speaking for Chris and Darren, but I think they agree, is that the budget is in really strong financial shape. We've generated more revenue than we were expecting, given that we were in COVID when we prepared the budget. Tax revenue has been strong. We've gotten more grants than ever, as you saw in the audit, which is good. And then we've really tried to limit our expenses this year and be really frugal as best we can, knowing like the uncertainty that we have with the SRC and COVID and returning to normal.
I mean, to me, it's something positive.
Yeah.
It's just, I can't see buying T-shirts, you know, for an event that's gonna bring in money, causing us to go talk to people about a supplemental budget.
Sure. Yeah, I think if I have the dates right, the good news is that'll be our last special event of this fiscal year. Although Melissa's got her hands full with helping with Sip and Savor and some other stuff, but that'll be the last district special event.
And when does the farmer's market start? In June?
Farmers market starts in June, yeah.
So that would be a special event in this fiscal year too.
Some of it will be, but really, there's only maybe 1 or 2 weeks in this fiscal year. And I think most of the expenses have already been prepared for and accounted for, with the exception of maybe like staff time and a couple other things, but we've already done most of that.
So, but to be clear, I mean, overall, when I look at the sort of big picture on this, we're 75% of the way through the year.
Mm-hmm.
We've achieved over 71% of our revenue that we're anticipating for the year. So we're about on course for how much the year we've gone through.
Mm-hmm.
But we've only spent down about 55%
Correct.
of our expenses, right?
Yeah.
So we're under, our pace of spending is less. So that's the big picture. You know, and I think on these budgets, I mean, I know that they're carefully crafted, but you don't know what you don't know. And so it isn't, from my viewpoint, it isn't necessarily a bad thing to consider whether or not you have to do a supplemental or change your budget categories. It means that things came up. And what's important is that we have, as fiduciaries, as having fiduciary oversight, that we're aware of those things when the changes need to be made. It's not a bad thing. As you said, it can be a positive thing. It's not a bad thing that's a change that we need to make adjustments.
Yeah. Any other comments, questions, concerns?
My only question, and I should remember this and I just don't, but we have for the building fund that we had allocated an annual budget for revenue for the building fund. And I can't remember if we thought that revenue was coming from like a carryover from last year, and that's how we were going to fulfill that. And where did we think the building fund money was coming in? And it's such a specific number, and I'm just not recalling how we thought we were going to raise. Oh, Darren says.
Go ahead, Darren.
Call me. Yeah, we, for the capital improvement fund, SRC fund, and the Broadway Field Fund, we typically, in the budget, set aside some transfer from the general fund.
Yeah.
That will occur sometime between this month and next month.
Okay.
We tend to do those toward the tail end of the fiscal year. If you find that you don't like your percentages as you get a little further into the fiscal year, you can always dial back some of those transfers. Capital Improvement Fund especially has more flexibility. SRC Fund would have less flexibility that way.
Yeah, okay, thanks, that's sort of what I thought. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's great when Darren and Chris are in the same room. Questions, comments, concerns, motions?
She's looking at me.
You're on a roll tonight, dude.
Well, I tell
No, it's
you,
interesting, since
I try to be
our
informed.
revenue is not where it was budgeted to be.
Well, I guess I can
But
come
our
up with a
expenses, as
question.
you point out, are,
The SDIS, what, I forgot, in special districts,
That's our insurance services,
so
so
that's $44,000?
that will be, I mean, that's gotta be for a quarter or maybe a year.
So that's the full year coverage.
Yeah,
That was the.
there's several checks written for that.
yeah. So they provide our property and loss and casualty coverage, as well as our district employee premium healthcare coverage.
So do they usually come out at the end of the fiscal year as a quarter? Or, I mean, it seems like I would have asked the question before if there was a huge number.
We
like
do
this.
one a year for the, yeah, it's typically between 44,000.
One for the property.
And then we get a
multiple for
separate
the-
one once a month
Okay.
for, health.
And there's actually another check,
Yeah.
down a little further for the health.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We got
Yeah,
the
I marked that.
March 17th.
Checks. Yeah, hopefully we can get our insurance down in time.
Do we need a motion? We need a
Move
motion.
that we accept the financials as presented.
My second.
Fabulous, thank you, Celeste, thank you, Erica. All in favor, signify aye, opposed nay. Erica?
Aye.
Sue?
Hi.
Celeste? Aye. Mike?
Yes, I will.
Aye, motion carries.
That's my car out there.
I wasn't as worried about your car as the large bush.
It looks like palm leaves.
Where you got that from, so.
Anyway, okay. Staff presentation, Levi is not here.
Yeah, so I shared it with you, I haven't shared it with everybody. Levi, is really sick, he's been out of the office for a few days, so he wasn't able to come, he sends his apologies. So we're hoping to reschedule his presentation for an upcoming board meeting.
Old business, budget committee composition. We shared the,
I shared a copy of the email.
Okay.
Wait, is this technically correspondence?
It could be, but it's not, I just got
We
it
just
today,
got
so I
it
didn't
today
put it
at
in the
12.
packet, so, but I know you needed it for this conversation, so.
so everybody should have gotten this email. Mr. Gatewood has tendered his resignation due to, yeah, but he doesn't, just that it's in his best interest at the time to reduce some of his existing commitments. We have accepted his resignation, which now leaves us with 3 openings on the budget committee and 3 candidates. So,
So I have a question. I mean, so I understood that Marcus was willing to step away. He just wanted to make sure that we were covered with what we needed.
Sure.
And now, of course, with Mr. Gazewood stepping away, that changes that dynamic. So is he still wanting to step in and do it?
I haven't asked him that direct question, but I think that Marcus would, step in and help us so that we have a full budget committee.
I would agree with that too.
Would that be a problem for staff?
I don't think so, no.
Okay.
Yeah, I think,
Marcus is, there was tension, I think, at first, but he's proven to be a good supporter of the district, so.
we can handle it, we're all adults and.
Are we able to nominate Marcus legally, even though he kind of withdrew his nomination?
So, in my mind, he didn't withdraw, he just had an informal conversation with me about, hey, if you don't need me, I'm okay with not being on the budget committee,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. But now we kind of do need him, and he's willing to serve, I think, and if the board would like to
I move that we nominate Marcus to the budget committee. And we need,
And we also
we need
nominate
all,
oh, we haven't done the other, oh, I thought
No.
we did the other.
No.
Oh,
No.
Couldn't do it because we were-
sorry, I jumped the gun, I withdraw my motion.
okay. Do you want to start over? Would you like to make a
I'd
new
make a
motion?
motion that we,
It's
Jamie
Jamie
Bingham,
and.
Kyle Borman,
There we go.
and Marcus Russell.
I make a motion that we nominate that slate as listed.
Thank you,
I
sir.
would second that slate.
Thank you, Mike. All in favor signify aye, opposed nay. Erica?
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Celeste? Aye. Mike?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. We thank them for being willing to serve in this capacity.
Should we send Mr. Gatewood a thank you letter for his service?
We could,
I think it's a great idea.
yeah?
I think, hopefully we did that for all of our former budget committee members.
Do you want that to come from the board?
Well, it could,
Yeah?
but staff would have drafted.
I can draft the letter and bring it to the board for review
Signatures?
and signature.
Yeah?
I think for all the former members that
Sure.
returns may have expired.
I think
I
it's
just-
curious that it came in today.
Yeah.
And I'm glad it's here today, not tomorrow.
For sure. I just thought of one thing that's not on here that I don't know if you want to touch on any updates that will fit in here on our occupancy.
Sure, I can provide that, now or later.
Whenever.
It's one of our district goals.
Okay,
so,
perfect.
Maybe I can revisit it then.
Yep.
Let me forget though.
Okay. New business, the SRC strategic plan, agenda item discussion and accepted.
So I don't know if you guys remember, but the day they presented some to us, I had to leave early. And, I'm just, to be honest, after reading, I'm just a little bit, if somebody here could just, in layman's terms, tell me exactly what, for example, some of the renovation stuff, what are we exactly doing in some of that? I don't feel like it's very clear to me, and when I read this, what we're exactly doing. Is that just me, or did I miss the presentation that would have?
Did you miss the presentation?
Yeah,
When he was here virtually?
yeah, I missed
Okay.
that, so I just, for some reason, it's not clear to me.
Yeah, so I guess maybe we should
Exactly
start
what's
with, there was it wasn't really, the way that we wrote the RFP with the Klosh Group was not necessarily for the focus of this project to give us as
Yeah.
much in that area. I think if you were to divide it, it was 85% this and 15% architecture. I think SFA wanted local contact as well as expertise from an architect.
Yeah.
So that's why they got SEA to participate with them. And I think what they provided us was really good, and I was kind of feeling like it wasn't going to be enough, but after a few other meetings and conversations with Sid, I think we're in a really good spot to move forward, and their effort in this is really serving as a catalyst for the occupancy and moving that forward.
Yeah.
So even though it's not necessarily detailed in the project summary, in my opinion, at the level that maybe I was hoping for, maybe what you guys were hoping for, I think it's adequate for us, and I think we're in a really good spot to, I guess, continue that relationship with them.
After reviewing it, because initially my feelings were oh, did we get the plan that we had hoped for?
Yeah.
That's how I was feeling. And then in reflecting on it, what I'm recognizing is that when we made a case to purchase the SRC, we did some of our own sort of scrappy background work, right? We did some community polling, we talked to citizens, we toured the building, so we did our own analysis and came up with our own board priorities of what we guessed were going to be the best uses of SRC, and to me, this confirms it. I mean, really, what
Yeah.
this does is backs up some of our initial projections and right sizes some of our initial projections. Like there's some stuff in here that frankly, doesn't contradict, but sort of right sizes, maybe some estimates and some ideas that we had about certain things, or at least will give us some more data to consider the direction we were going to go and how we, but ultimately, I feel like the planning is going to be up to us and staff, us in collaboration with staff, and that we will have to decide, so for instance, for architectural improvements, I'm really thankful for the connection to SID and SEA and I think this gives them what they need. I think it gives us what we need both to raise funds, to make a case to the community about that we have solid footing for our plans moving forward. And I think it will help to the contractors that we end up bringing into the picture for improvements. This gives a solid, so it isn't board members on a shoestring with staff support trying to put together the data. We actually have it compiled in,
like, so for example, the gym space.
Yeah.
Is would you summarize that the idea would be to keep them as is, but do them more, basically get them in better shape? Is that kind of the idea? It's not necessarily to add, it's just to improve?
Yeah, I think so. There's a part of the section that talks about possible expansion and goes back to their conversation that they had with Carrie.
Yeah.
About her desires to have, additional gyms on site. I don't know if the site will really be able to accommodate all of those hopes. The other thing that I think is important is they, Sid especially, saw how we were using the building and the way that we had, I guess, contextually imagined the building being used kind of for these three things, right? You got the youth programs, you got rented space, and then you got recreation. And they were like, yeah, that makes really good sense. And so he felt like it wasn't really within the budget at that time to, redesign the space and do something different. And then we even provided him with the plans from our previous architect that worked on it. And he liked those, but he just said, this makes a lot of sense. I think once we figure out the site and the parking and the access points, he's like, you're going to be in really good shape to start quickly if you have the funds and you want to. So.
I would also say regarding gym space, when I read this report, actually, just because this is the data they came up with doesn't mean we have to agree with their analysis of it, right? I actually think they're missing the mark. Some of this report misses some of the mark regarding, I don't think they know our tourist market. We all live here and we see how many people come, and it's different than on the East Coast. It just looks different. And we see how many teams come down here for different things, not just for basketball. They just organic. This is where teams like to vacate. They come and do team building stuff down here, and they're not in our community, so they don't see that. So some of this can help guide us and guide our discussions about our strategy, but it doesn't have to be our playbook.
No, I agree with that. I wanted to just review with Skylar. Did you get my comments on this plan? What I sent by email.
Yeah, I did. They were after she had already issued me the draft, but I thought the comments were great, and I'm gonna.
And I just wanted to refer to a couple of them.
Okay.
One was I thought that that they made childcare look like a real revenue generator. I'm seeing it as a necessary program, but we're giving away, we're 25% financial assistance on that. So how much revenue can we generate if we're giving away the store? And I just was questioning that. There were other points in there which I thought needed to be, might be corrections or directions, but and on the tourism and the money that was being generated, the projections, the important thing is the revenue generated for the district. The community is a bonus, but we need to protect the revenue for the district first and foremost, because we are bearing a large expense maintaining that, or even outside programs such as PBO. And we had the impact, which you related to us, which sounded rather negative about the maintenance requirement to clean up after PBO, with even drug paraphernalia and all kinds of debris that I was told required dumpsters. That is over and above, I think, what we anticipated. So, but yet the SFA people, they were saying, well, yeah, we could have revenue generating programs help subsidize the needy ones, or maybe the special events that we have to throw money at to get them started. So, I'm a little concerned about how all that balances out in reality for us.
So the idea that the next step is to create a strategic plan that would then give us direction on this? Is that the idea?
I think so, I guess, so I think that's one direction we could go. It's my understanding the board kind of wanted an overarching strategic plan for the district that encompassed, obviously, the SRC, but wasn't just SRC focused.
Yeah.
I don't remember, page 5, they talk about,
The next step.
he says there are multiple key steps factors that must be addressed before moving forward. Then they lay out 3, and then there's next steps as well. So what I would, I guess, like direction from the board is, do they agree with these steps, and do we want to move on these steps? And then the second part of the direction I'm hoping to receive or feedback is, how do we want to share this information with our constituents, with the public? There's people are very interested in the building and what we're doing, and I think got lots of questions, like when is this plan or when is this report going to be available? So I'm not sure the best way to go about communicating this information out and making it widely known.
I think like these steps are their steps. I think our first step is what is our strategic plan overall. I think the community would feel like better if we are including like all the buildings in one master strategic plan that then we take these steps into consideration with that plan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because my mind, like when I look at this little chart, like my mind starts going in all these directions. Like what are we going to do with, where the youth programs used to be? Like,
Sure.
What are we doing if we cut off this access point? And, like there's so many things to consider that aren't just related to SRC.
I was curious, where's the indoor walk track?
Yeah. So
I just didn't, I was looking at the discussion about fitness, sports, recreation, the cardio, the weight room, but I was just curious, where's that spot that I get to walk in the rain?
yeah, so there's no built walk track in here, but what they're well aware of our desire to have a walking space, and there would be a short loop in the green wing. It would probably be about 19 or 20 laps for a mile, and then a larger loop, depending on, we haven't necessarily worked out all the details with our tenant right now, how they would feel about having the general public be walking in their classroom, or through their classroom area.
I never expected there to be a track. I just thought we'd have, we walk.
And the other consideration for the larger loop is walking through the hallway with the youth program.
Right.
Yeah.
So that may not work, but they are, like, if that doesn't work, then we'll just do this shorter loop, and it'll be a little more compact, but still good size, and will work for, I think, what most of our patrons are requesting, which is just a dry, warm, climate-controlled space.
But also might be able to incorporate a loop into the gym.
Yeah.
Which is pretty easy.
Yeah.
Or both gyms.
I'm with you, I like what SEA, proposed, and their thoughts on this, with the glassed-in area, and the multi-use, the event area with the kitchen and the existing lunchroom.
So as far as your question about like how do we present this to the public, for me personally, I kind of feel like we need to wait until we have our occupancy permit. I feel like that's the linchpin for everything. And I don't really want to be like, hey, here's all the things we're going to do, but not yet.
Yeah, and also I feel like we should have, for me, like I'm still wondering, like what is our plan for a strategic plan? What are we going to, because I would rather have that like very clear for all of us before we present anything.
And that, I think, was our plan for the workshops, was to start working on that.
I feel like if we put this out to the community, it would generate more questions, more potential frustrations.
Well, I mean, sorry.
No, I'm done.
I mean, in some ways, we could list this as a next step, like this. One of the things I hesitate to do is wait and to hold information too close to the vest
Right.
and wait, because then then you're open yourself to criticism that you're not having an open and transparent process.
But I think he already, I mean, there was something in the paper just the other day that kind of.
I mean, is there a reason why, I mean, there's a lot going on in our community right now. In some ways, I think it might be a nice time to have this available and open, it's on the website, that way, and we could put it out at the same time with, the board is now going to work with developing our timeline for building out our own strategic plan and priorities and timeline attached to those. And that this will be a piece that informs that effort.
Informs it.
Right, not that
Not
this is
that
the
this
plan.
is the plan.
No, that
Yeah.
this informs that plan.
Okay.
Moving
I mean, we
forward.
have all the other information that was available to folks about when we purchased the building, and we've tried, I think, really hard to make it transparent and
Yeah.
offered tours and
Yeah.
had community meetings there and stuff. But I agree, I would hate for the sentiment from anybody that we're hiding something or we're not being forth in our information and.
I think as long as we're very clear, like, this is, you know, the first step in many.
Yeah.
Well, and maybe what we could do, and this might even be nice, this is actually, we saw this on some of the tours that we went on, Mike, when we went and saw some of the other buildings, they actually had a wall dedicated to the planning process for the building's renovation that I thought was pretty ingenious. And I could even see us doing a chart on the wall that shows the first step over here was securing the building space, right, so that we had it to work with. Second step was to get some professional guidance, but there's going to be step 7, you know, to steps 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 12, right, all the way to the end, and we don't even know what all those steps are. But I think letting the public see that we're on this sort of continuum, and making progress towards whatever the final piece is going to be, I think might be helpful to set expectations.
So what we did on our district goals was, write by June 30th, obtain full occupancy for Sunset Rec Center, begin the process of utilizing building space, providing more recreation and community space, timeline begun, hope to complete by June 30th. And then something, you know, there was an April 21 day. I don't know that anyone's following things that closely, but I mean, we just need to probably look at doing some workshops and, you know, report what we've got, so people are seeing the transparency.
One thing that I'd like to just kind of throw out is something for you guys to think about, and this came up in a conversation with Bob Mitchell concerning our occupancy, that one thing that they're going to have is a really good idea of what each one of those spaces is going to be used for, because the use of that space determines a lot about what type of life safety things need to be in place there. So a lot of their decision on whether to grant occupancy is going to depend on each individual use of each space. So they're going to want to know that we have a very clear vision of what that is as we go into the process of requesting that occupancy, and then also the architect being involved in making sure that each one of those spaces meets that occupancy, whether it's an A, B, C, D, E type occupancy. So that's just something to kind of think about.
No, that's great to know.
If we shared this, is this the level of detail he needs?
He has a conceptual map that exceeds that.
He does, okay.
And the gentleman, Brandon, he works for SEA, so he's like very dialed into this plan. And Darren's right to Bob's point, but I think the plan that Brandon has is to share the understanding, help convince Bob that the building is really going to be used for the same purposes as it was before.
Yeah.
So we don't have to reclassify the building in any way, basically. There'll be some life safety improvements that the building will have to be made, but there'll be smaller projects that will be so significant that we can't tackle them, some of them really quickly.
Yeah.
And this is jumping ahead to my goals, but he feels strongly, I think we're gonna be, we should be able to hit that June 30 goal with some time to spare.
Excellent.
I would like to see, just personally, you know, I think all this information is very useful toward getting occupancy. I would like to see the locker rooms and the access to locker rooms tweaked a little bit, because the women have to enter the locker rooms through the gym. The men have an entrance basically through a side corridor. I would like to see that large atrium that's between the two gymnasiums and the locker rooms now. I would like to see that become interior space, so it became kind of a lobby where there would be access to the locker rooms from that area, so that no one had to go into the gyms. But, and also it would be possibly an egressable area where people could exit to the playing fields. But I could foresee that area becoming possibly a large glassed-in or roofed-over area that would add interior space, would be a mall area for a lot of those teams and sports that come in too. That's just my own personal vision.
Sure.
It might reduce the hallway child activity as well, you know, to have like some space where you can talk like after a game. And
I know there's an elevation problem there with the ramp, because the newer gym is basically at ground level and the other gym is a little bit elevated. But I know the exits there are kind of awkward anyway. But that would be an architectural thing that I think maybe could be considered.
Yeah.
But it would require capital improvement before we possibly added any gyms.
Well, to me, I feel like that part of what maybe needs to happen is to have, I don't know if it's the same planning team that moves forward, but we need a series of projects scoped out, and that we need to work and bring them to the board. Yeah, we need to put some really rough numbers to it, maybe with some assistance from SID, from SEA, and some staff input about those priorities, and that we line up a series of projects and have some board input around priority of projects. And that will help build out a plan for the rec center. But I also think that plan should be informed by this overarching district plan.
It's, sorry, I was smirking while you're saying that, because so much of what you guys are saying is in development or is going to be impacted by some of these other pieces, like, for instance, the softball field or the Broadway field improvements is going to impact the locker rooms. But what you just said, that's happening right now. So with Klosh Group and with David from SEA, or not David, Brandon from SEA, we're working with Cove Build, an Archcape contracting business that does work like this, and they're doing exactly that. They're rough scoping some of these projects. What would it cost to do this room, to outfit this room for fitness? What would it cost to improve the cafeteria or the library? And they have, this plan to a greater detail. So a lot of that's transpiring right now, which is really good.
Are they also potentially like categorizing, say, okay, this needs to happen before this other project?
Yeah,
or,
some of that will be up to us to decide, but what we've, I think,
let me rephrase that. Maybe saying like, okay, you're going to need to do this project for the, like building safety or, whatever.
Yeah.
Versus.
I think we'll have that information. When it comes to like the basic needs that the building has, we'll know that'll be on one list, and then like the fun, cute
like
stuff
we'd love
will be
our
later.
dream list would be this, but our needs list.
Yeah,
is
that's
this.
what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Like you have to do this.
Yeah.
Well, and some I think are going to impact revenue. I mean, I think, and I even think like to some extent the exterior renovation is going to impact revenue, and including, we have one of the best locations in town for signage that is not being utilized, right? They didn't need it for a school, but tourists don't know that we exist. Yeah.
There are a lot of people in the community that never even knew where the Broadway Middle School was.
And I just think, putting up some sort of digital reader board or something that lets people know what's happening inside, right? Like, and gives people, that's a fairly easy capital improvement, to fundraise for.
Well, I noticed that the Broadway school sign is down,
Yeah.
so I wondered, are we just gonna keep the name SRC? People are used to it, or I
We'll have
mean,
to decide until you have something, we need to call it something, I guess is my position, and until we have something better, or
It's a
until
pretty
there's
good start.
a naming rights
Right.
sponsor or some other.
I am all for
Direction.
some big company coming in and throwing down a whole bunch of money and we calling it whatever, you know, Nike.
Well,
Just saying.
Nike's giving the track team $5,000 a year.
well, I was just like, you know,
I want 500,000.
because
I want
somebody died
millions.
a while ago, we were talking about honoring him, but I wondered if that couldn't be the field.
I think the field, I'm sorry, I know my dad's my dad, but I would love to do something for him in Broadway because he was there, you know, teaching and coaching when the pool was being built, coaching plus, actually. But anyway, sorry.
No.
But I think, in all fairness, I think we should think about, that, to me, that should be part of the planning process, the
Yeah.
communications process, the fundraising,
Yeah.
it ties into fundraising, right? Because some of those named pieces you can do as part of a fundraising effort, so I
Totally.
think that needs to
I mean, they
be
did that
part of the
for
more
for
comprehensive,
the batting facility, you know, kind of.
yeah.
I do think signages and color and the look of the building can make a difference.
Well, and I think this is where SEA shines, to tell you the truth. I'm hugely impressed. I've spent quite a bit of time on their website. They shine in this area, and I think particularly, I mean, it's not as if the facility we purchased is on a back street in the corner of the town someplace, right? It's at the middle of our community.
The heart.
Yeah, and I think there's a great opportunity to build a community space and to make it feel as if it's a commons and shared space that people would be excited about, and I think that will drive investment.
Yeah.
So,
I feel,
I agree.
I don't know, I know there's a tendency that we have internally to run a little bit faster than
Yeah.
we have the capacity to, but I think this is a great step. We've gotten this hopefully done, pending your approval. Occupancy is hopefully next, and then after that, I mean, there's some other kind of pieces in the works with getting some estimates on things. Hiring this grant writer, I think, is going to be really important. Expanding childcare, and then, you know, lots of, it's not as if, I feel like since we purchased the building, we've hastened our pace every step, like every month. There hasn't been a time where we've just like, okay, let's just let that
Yeah.
rest. But it's going to take, I mean, it's just a testament, I guess, to the fact that it's going to take quite a while to figure all of this out. Just given the size of our budget and organization and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
can I ask about, on page 17, other facilities, did we inform this list? I'm not aware of what Newby's Early Childhood Development Center is.
So that's a location in
Gearhart.
Gearhart,
Okay.
near.
And that's in business?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there was.
So this list looks accurate to you all?
It does. The one question, like, yeah, I mean, I have like a couple of questions, but it is reasonably accurate.
Okay.
I know they took a site tour when they were here and drove to some of these facilities, and I know they have the ability to collect data, research on using
Okay.
some software that they have access to that I don't know
Yep.
about.
Well, on page 40.
Tammy's went out of business.
It is, yeah.
Tragically.
Now, how does Sunset Family Fitness do childcare?
I think they have a
It's not
drop,
that very big.
well, they have like a drop-in, not anymore?
No, I don't think they have that.
No,
Yeah.
they took that room and made it, during the
Yeah.
pandemic,
It's gone.
Oh, okay, never mind.
so.
And it wasn't anything
I knew you could like sign up,
consistent really
yeah.
anyway, so I don't know.
I know isn't Little Sprouts Academy gone?
It was really sad, I
No.
mean,
So
you're looking at one.
It is gone. If you've been reading in the news, they found a nonprofit, what's it called? I can't remember the nonprofit in that story, that's gonna take over, use the same space as Little Sprouts. But I mean, to be honest, I think we all realize those aren't really our competitors. Like there's a geographical distance, and there's so much need for this service. They're only going to provide care for children 0 through 3.
Which is great.
So
because that's a huge need.
Sure.
I think one of my sort of observations, and it sort of gets to this, is, you know, their projections around drive time feel very, I spent quite a bit of time on the East Coast and in other states.
Sure.
And this is how cities are situated and calculated in denser, more densely populated
Yeah.
areas.
Yeah.
And I don't think we look at it, things like this. Like, I think you're either within 15 minutes, you either live in Cannon Beach, Deerheart, Warrington kind of area, and you're part of this community, or you could be traveling from Portland or Seattle. Like, it's not that, like, it's one or the other. Nobody really is going to travel here for 30 minutes
Yeah.
to use our, so I just don't see that happening, for the most part, like,
Well-
but in metropolitan areas, people do travel for childcare, 30 minutes or 60 minutes to drop kids off.
Yeah.
I think we could potentially get some additional, you know, with some things improving, for example, like Astoria or Manzanita type.
Maybe
Yeah.
that, but I mean, but I think the other piece that this doesn't take it, so I don't think people will travel here usually, particularly for those, mostly
Yeah.
it'll either be local, or it's gonna be tourists who are just visiting
No,
here
totally.
anyways, and are looking for drop-in childcare, or
Yeah.
drop-in camps, or like other activities for their people to do. I just think it's different than when you live in Boston,
Yeah.
and you have to drive 45 minutes each way to take your kid to childcare, and that's just
Or
part
to
of
like
life.
a basketball
Or to a
academy.
basketball academy,
Yeah.
or to anything like that you go. So I feel like in some cases this maybe lacked some of that perspective of what our Pacific Northwest lifestyle is.
Yeah.
So I think next steps, this would go on our website, maybe with the kind of note saying like,
Yeah.
we will be using this to further our strategic plans.
Yeah.
We're gonna continue working towards occupancy, hopefully get that by June, which then will allow us to start implementing. Skylar is gonna get kind of, project costs for our needs/dream want list of things. And then we'll start having meetings for doing an overarching strategic plan for the district. Does that sound like kind of where we're at?
That sounds good.
Okay. Do you want a motion to approve this?
That's totally up to you all. I just put it on here because this represented a substantial investment by the district, and I think was a really important kind of first step after we purchased the building. Felt like the first real thing that we did besides inventory. So, if the board would like to make a motion that they accept,
I kind of
they
think
don't
we
have to.
shouldn't. The only reason I say that is because I don't want it to seem like we're approving this as
Like it's a final
the thing.
thing.
Yeah.
Right.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
That's just my,
I sort of agree.
I think the
with that.
conversation that you've had
yeah, should go on
represents
record.
your, your intent, and,
Right.
we can move forward if you'd like from there.
Mhm.
I mean, I think we can say that they did an excellent job, you
Yeah.
know, and,
I think they met
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
scope of work and.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. I think it was good at the onset with the meeting with the communities and.
yeah.
And I think we built a lot of rapport with a lot of community members and, people got a different perspective.
Yeah.
And I hope, you know, I've personally loved all those meetings with the community and getting them involved.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, as we continue down this path, I hope we continue to get their involvement. Made a lot of connections.
The meetings that I attended, that's how Kyle Gorman got pulled in,
Yeah,
and now look where he is.
great. Okay, so moving on, Broadway Field update.
Can we vote on that?
We're not voting.
Okay.
So I shared a letter written by the superintendent of Seaside Schools, Susan Penrod, and I think that was the reason why I wanted to include this. It's been on our agenda for a few months, but it sounds as if the school district, after initially thinking that they were not going to be using Broadway Field for softball, it sounds very possible, at least, that they will be using that location for softball, and as such, they need to create a plan that will comply with Title IX standards and make sure that they're clear of I guess, the risk of lawsuit for that. And so she just shared their desire to potentially partner with us. It's kind of It's different than it was before because we actually own some of that land that might be used for a softball field or reconfiguring the softball field, and we also own some of the land that might be needed for infrastructure, for parking access, and it definitely changes the layout of the field, but we've shared a couple of potential options as how we feel the softball field could be configured in a way so it's compliant with Title IX and provides equity for the baseball and softball programs.
So, is there room?
Yeah, just so you guys know, he's not, like, remember when we bought the building, they proposed that we would put a whole new field in the back there?
Yeah.
The idea is to just, like, move the home plate, like, if you're looking down the first baseline, like, that way, towards those houses. So you're basically trying to get the infield out of where the football lines have, so it's like 40 feet, right?
Yeah, so
So you're tucking it in back
You're
there?
basically
Basically-
moving it back to
Yeah.
get those lines out of the infield, you're not creating a brand new field.
So we don't have
So it extends
to raise or
the field.
lower anything,
Well,
home plate?
no, not necessarily, but I mean, there's
There's a lot.
there's a lot to it, like even
Yeah.
that is gonna be a really complicated thing, because there's lights, there's dugouts, there's scoreboards and things like that, and all that is gonna have to be part of this plan. What they're doing actually tomorrow is surveying the land, they're gonna use, drones and all this other high-tech equipment to see if it can fit. It's our hope that it can fit, just because we think that that's the best location for this project, because it's close to the existing infrastructure, to the batting cages, and I guess our opinion, just based on the cost work that we are able to estimate, is that it would save the school district and our community a lot of money to have it there as opposed to building a new turf field somewhere else.
And it would be equal with the baseball.
Right,
So you're
yeah.
then not creating a brand new facility where then baseball is sharing a facility. So, it'd be in kind of equal footing.
I wasn't able to join the school district meeting, but I know that this was on their agenda for presenting last week. I'm not sure how the conversation went, but I think the superintendent has the support of her board to
They're
find.
just gonna have to look at, the caveat is that they're asking her to also look at Wahana.
Okay.
I'm also wondering that when we get into this, can we take into consideration and make sure that we use this as a opportunity to
Yes.
revisit the Broadway field, and that we build into it maintenance, like that we build in a whole plan?
Yeah.
The other thing is, the more I've thought about this, Skylar, I just kind of want to put on record, I feel like there's a lot of assumptions being made that this could just happen without, I don't feel like with a very strong partner. So far, the partnership has not gone well. And so they're making assumptions that we're just going to go ahead with whatever plans they present. And I think they need to step up a bit and partner better with us. I mean, they may need to buy property from us, some things
Fund
need to
capital
change.
improvement,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sure.
Right, make the
Right.
amendment, right.
And
So that was
yeah.
definitely part of the conversation, and I think at least our partnership with the school, they understand that need for us, and to use this as maybe a catalyst to redo the IGA, and I think they're on board with that.
Where does the city, what are their thoughts on this conversation? Because they're the third partner.
Sure.
We don't have that, we have this letter that was in our packet too, that from the school district.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're supportive, in similar ways as us, supportive of the efforts of the school district. That space, that we're talking about utilizing is not used by the city, it's maintained by us. I think they want to help, we all want to help each other.
Yeah.
I don't think they would have any opposition to it. And I guess the good news about this opportunity or this project is that I think the school district has a desire to do this, to maybe add some of those pieces that you're talking about with the infrastructure. We had a discussion, they toured the locker rooms, for instance, and
Right.
they said, maybe this is a good opportunity for us to invest some capital funds and repair or update these locker rooms to make sure we have equitable space in there for boys and girls sports that are using the field. So I don't know, I think there's still a ton of things to transpire, but I guess from our position, what seemed like it was a pretty set thing that it was going to be at Wahana is now not quite so set, and we're going to be you know, a stakeholder, and there's gonna be decisions to be made by the board based on the plan that they present and how you all feel about it. The other, I think, consideration, and it's pretty worrisome to me, is that they are supposed to have their plan in place by June 2023. And so,
But is that just, because
no, like, they're supposed to have the field, like, done by then.
built?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're supposed to have a plan wrapped up by, like, December, and presented in some way. But even under the best circumstances with construction and things like that, that's a really tight timeline. And considering that there's action on that field every day right now, and will be action out there until
For
November at the earliest. You know, so that conversation was brought up, and I don't know how we're gonna mitigate the users of the field if there is a big construction project, because what we talked about is that if we're gonna build this new softball part of the field, then this is probably the right time to just re-turf the whole field. Because it's near the end of its life.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense to do that, but that's it's a sizable project, and you need dry weather and things like that, so.
What would happen if this whole project becomes concurrent with the Broadway field replacement?
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
It kind of makes sense.
Yeah,
that
how do you
probably would
mitigate
need to.
that?
Yeah. So next steps, it sounds like they're doing their survey and then.
Yeah, the survey's I mean, honestly, if they can't figure out how to fit the field, what they need, the space, into the existing site, then we may be dead in the water for this, but, and I think they can.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that they'll look at it creatively and, open mind, and we'll go from there.
I would say, you know, if you need board support for whatever next steps are, just let us know,
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
Okay, thank you for the update. Policy on youth programs for employees, there was a letter in the packet somewhere.
Yeah, it's right after that letter from Susan Penrod.
I think this is great.
Totally, we're
Yeah, to be honest, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I am very supportive. My concern is, and I'm very glad that you mentioned that you had talked to Eileen, because I know it's, as a government agency, it's very, you know, getting benefits from your job is one of those things. So what?
Looks like it's compensation, and so it will be taxed.
Yeah,
So it's just-
is that how we get around it?
Is that definitive though, or is she taking a guess, is she saying she thinks that, like, we need to look into it?
I would say it's somewhere in between. She didn't say it's 100% definitive.
It's like a few pages from the end. Keep going.
What she said, though, was that there's enough case law to support her position, and while there hasn't been a
It
specific
was right
challenge
after this.
about this,
like that, Darren stapled it,
that she,
so sorry.
that she feels that it would be supported. And to be transparent, like, we've had this fitness or workout benefit in place for some time. It's never been challenged, and I've heard anecdotally that other park and rec agencies, cities, are providing a benefit like this to their employees, but just kind of assume that they were doing it, not illegally, but maybe just like not without the best knowledge of the law.
Did she say how it would be actually recorded on payroll? Like, is it gonna be like?
She said that would be up to us, but I was
Yeah.
kind of, in our conversations, I sort of made mention of our fitness thing, and she said, yeah, you just set it up like that.
Okay.
How
do you guys set that up?
So the employee opts in through some documentation, and then, can't remember what happens
Darren?
from there.
But what does it look like on the payroll?
Yeah,
Is it
so
like
what it looks
pre-tax?
like on the payroll,
The deduction.
well, let's take our current, membership benefit
Yeah.
that we get. So if you opt in, you receive $35, and then we take,
Compensation, and then you tax it.
and then we take $35.
Yeah.
So it works out to zero there,
Yeah.
but, at the end of the year, yeah, you've got $35 additional money every
Does
month.
it say like
So,
bonus, or what does it say next to
It
it?
just says like,
as the descriptor is
fitness.
just, membership.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, well then,
Is this like pre-tax dollars for childcare?
no, it's
It's
tax,
No,
right?
it'll be part of your taxable income. So if, let's say the program cost you, $195 a month, you're gonna look like you get $195 more a month for 12 months of the year if you opt in for that benefit. So, yeah, it looks like you've received an extra almost, what, $2,400 at the end of the year. So, and that is taxable, so.
I have questions about our capacity and how that, maybe technically, it actually would be childcare staff who might need this benefit. So
Well, we would,
they might be taking care of their own children, so
yes.
what kind of conflicts of interest can come up? And secondly, how will it affect our capacity to serve the public that we serve already? And then the other thing, my wife and I were discussing this, she's with CBH, she said, well, what if you've got children with mental issues or behavioral issues or, you know, special disabilities? Would that obligate us to take care of those?
Yeah.
Or would there be exclusions?
Capacity is an issue, but I mean, I guess from our position, these are children in the community that need access to these programs, families that need access. So I don't want to take a spot from Peter and give it to Paul, for instance, but I would like, I just want more spots, and by having more employees, and if childcare is a barrier to employees, then hopefully that number will rise. The other, I mean, we have children that have special needs right now, Mike, and we have staff that I feel like are really, as much as we can, really well qualified to help them.
Like infant care, you know, moving to infant care, I don't know if we're doing that yet, but that's extremely expensive to staff. It's almost a one-on-one situation.
Yeah.
So, my view of it is, you know, how many kids can we have in the classroom now, post-COVID-ish?
15.
15, okay, so there's
Preschool classroom.
15 spots that we could have if we had more staff, but we don't have more staff. So even if we hire a staff member who needs one of those spots for their own child, that's still 14 community members that we can assist. You know, and we wouldn't be able to offer that if we don't offer that staff member that one spot.
Well, I'm interested in this kind of thing. It's kind of a juggling thing, and it's good you're working with Eileen on that.
Yeah.
I would support it if it would look feasible.
Okay.
It was doable, you know.
I'm definitely in support of finding ways to increase our capacity, and I think this is definitely what we have to do. My only concern, you know, would be like with the infant care, you know, like he says, if it's a one-on-one and we hire somebody, but then they bring their infant, that's the one-on-one.
So infant care isn't it's not a one-on-one. The ratio is much lower. I think it's like 1 to 4 or 1 to 5 or something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
But no, I hear your concern, and I'm not saying it's not a valid concern. What I think the reason why I wanted this just to be a discussion, there's no policy that's crafted or shaped. I need feedback from the board on as to what that policy you want that policy to look like. Because it needs to be really ironclad before it's adopted, and then give us some time to implement the policy. But I do think it will be a valuable recruiting tool, not just for youth program staff, but for full-time staff, for lifeguards, for the other positions that we really struggle to get applicants in. And many of them come and say, well, how much can you pay? And we say, this much, and they say, well, I can't even, you know, cover my child care with that.
Yeah.
So this may provide enough of a lift that they will find employment with the district to be something that they pursue.
I'd like to see when you do have a proposal that you give consideration to full-time versus part-time employees and what that looks like.
Okay.
Right, because
Well, are part-time unbenefited?
They are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
they're unbenefited?
Yeah.
Correct.
But won't that be problematic if aren't most of your lifeguards part-time?
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
just about all of our positions are unbenefited. We only have 9 full-time staff right now.
So I think you'd want to look at that, because if we've got sort of some entry-level jobs that are, like, and we're trying to recruit those folks, and if this is going to be a proposed benefit, like, how do you have some equity?
Well,
across
isn't it
the-
around same as the fitness situation? Like, you can opt in
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
part-time could opt in, right?
sure, yeah.
They get a full
Yeah.
benefit, so they get.
But I think
full
that's
time.
where we have to go away from, is calling it a benefit. Does that make sense? Because it's not attached to that status, it's just it's a
So,
compensation
yeah, it's a
program that you
benefit,
can
but it's
opt in.
available to every employee whether they work.
But would it
It's
be
not really a
completely
benefit.
comped? I guess that, so the question would be, is would you give the same
To each,
to a 5-hour-a-week employee versus a full-time employee? And if somebody comes and works 5 hours a week and has 4 kids, now are we comping 4 spots in childcare for 5 hours? So I think you would have to figure out, and/or, I mean, the other thing that you could consider is not giving it, making it a employer contribution, so that we cover half, or something like that, right?
absolutely.
That it's not,
Yeah.
yeah.
I would
think
say
there are grants
almost
for that.
like we will cover, the hours that you are scheduled to work. So it's not just free childcare to go have a day off. So whatever, you're working, that's part of your benefit, and then I would definitely put a cap on it.
You could probably just do like a prorating schedule based on like the hours that you have.
Can I just ask, with my kids, we wound up with pre-tax dollars. Does a program like that even exist anymore?
Free tax dollars?
No,
Maybe free.
it's just that, because they can't do
Free.
that at a government, they're
Yeah.
not allowed to do that at the government.
At a special district?
Yeah, but you're talking about like the FSA and like the,
I don't know which one it was.
flexible
I just-
spending accounts that.
Well, I just know
that are
that-
pre-tax money.
Before they had those, we got to choose, because daycare, my kids are just real old. They're as old as Tyler. So, I mean,
Ouch.
you know, so,
Really?
no.
You might
Oh,
ask
come on.
if you guys can do flexible spending accounts.
We can't, I mean, we have FSAs
Oh, you
for
can?
healthcare, for,
So
full-time
I
employees.
wonder if you could, this wouldn't apply?
I didn't ask her if that was an option.
Yeah, I don't know.
I kind of approached it as like, can we find a way for this to be a tax
Yeah.
benefit? Like
She
our-
probably would have said if it
Yeah.
was, yeah. Okay.
I mean, so I think what Eileen is, I mean, if you Google this, it says, under the tax law, the provision of employer-paid childcare expenses is considered a fringe benefit that may be excludable from your employee's taxable earnings if certain requirements are met. So, I mean, I do think this might be where you actually need an employment tax attorney to provide some input.
Yeah.
I just know it was beneficial for us.
So I think what you can garner from this, Skylar, is that you
We have no idea.
Well, but I think you have the support of the board to pursue this.
Yeah,
you know,
I'll agree, you can make that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna read her direct quote.
Okay.
With the caveat that only the Oregon Ethics Commission can make a final determination on the question. In my opinion, a discount on child care services for district employees is permitted as long as it's part of a policy adopted by the board of directors that makes it part of the employee's official compensation package. In my opinion, this would be true whether the discount gave discounts for its own child care programs or covered part of the cost of outside child care.
Yeah.
I did search of opinions and advice on the Ethics Commission website and didn't find anything specific to childcare, but there are comparable recent examples of things like discounts on college tuition, discounts on free transit passes for employees, hiring preferences for volunteers, private security services for Secretary of State.
So, yeah, so I think what you're saying, again, is this is a compensation. We're giving you a lump sum amount, and you can do what you want with that in a way. Like, I don't actually think, from the way it sounds, you could say it's restricted to Sunset Empire. I think you would
that could be-
I think you would just have to allow the person to find childcare based on that percentage that you give them.
But can we give more for in-district and out-of-district?
You can
Probably, yeah.
write the policy.
Yeah, because I didn't, so in that piece, like, I was curious where she listed, similar cases. Like, what were some of the similar cases?
College tuition, free transit passes.
Like free transit passes, it's not, we're buying you tickets on any transportation you want, it's free transit. Those are when they give out free bus tickets, right? So,
Well, not necessarily. I think they could be, like, I think now people are doing things that are pretty broad with transit. That
So-
they're doing, like, more than just, like, a
Yeah, I
whatever's in
think
that city.
we can all agree that we don't necessarily know what we're talking about.
Right. I mean, the program I'm
And-
talking about is 30 years old.
Yeah, but I think what we can all agree on
See,
is
well,
that,
no, that would, you would take my children 30 years ago.
well, I think, so, Skylar, I think we can agree that we
My
see
daughter
the need,
too.
we understand the need, we'd like to see something put in place, we need more information.
Okay.
So, take that and run with it.
Yeah, this is, I get a sense of where we're headed.
Hey.
And I think what I'm gonna do is create a draft of a policy, and then I think that it's
Run it
just-
by
Why don't you send her what you have for
Gotta
the
get
membership? Because I think you guys, whatever you have worded for the membership, is that an employee handbook?
Yeah,
I would think you should send that to her and say, could we word it similarly?
okay.
Because I think those two things should be the same. That could actually cause problems if they're not the same.
Yeah,
And I think the question about, you know, full-time, part-time, how many children.
that could all be part of the policy.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
But,
that could
you know,
be-
those are things, like, you figure that out and come back to us.
Well, and you know, you're the right age because my children are just, 37 and 32. You know, they don't need any kind of daycare.
Okay,
But,
All right.
gosh, did we suffer through.
Moving on, June board meeting and workshop schedule.
yeah, so I included this because of a couple reasons. I wanna make sure that we're clear on dates for workshops. Workshop potentially, they're not necessarily listed.
Oh, my bad.
Um,
You sent them to me and then.
And then, as far as the June board meeting goes, it's on a date where I will be out of the area, not able to participate in the board meeting. You have the option of changing the board meeting date.
Wait, start again. The board workshop or the board meeting?
Board meeting.
The board meeting,
If we can
you're out of
start,
there.
we can start with the meeting, because that's the meeting that we actually have to have. So that schedule's for June 28th.
Okay, and you're out of there, yeah.
And not
What was that? I'm not hearing that.
June 28th.
Skylar's not here June 28th.
We're not gonna be having a board meeting on the 20th.
No, that's not
No.
the
Mike,
case.
Mike,
Okay, I'm trying to follow it.
well, Skylar is not available
On the
June 28th.
Okay.
So we
I
are
get
trying,
that.
we're trying to decide what to do about that. And, yeah,
You could have the meeting a different Tuesday or a different night. You could have the meeting without me, and I could ask staff to attend in my stead. That's not
Is that a
unusual.
budget, though?
No.
That doesn't fall into our budget timeline or approval process?
Well, it would depend, if you approve the budget either at the May 3rd or at the May
Right.
17th meeting, then you can adopt the budget at our May meeting.
Okay.
And June would be a meeting for
Something.
other things, yeah.
Okay.
Last year, we approved it at the June meeting, but we don't have to do that. So yeah, you could meet without me, or we could change the meeting to perhaps the,
Well, just tell you the 21st is a CERT meeting
okay.
at 5.
I know it's a busy
Are
month
you-
with graduation and vacations and things like that.
are you just gone the night of or the day of the 28th, or are you gone that week?
So I am leaving Wednesday, the 22nd, and I will not be back until after the 4th of July. So,
So we could potentially do the 21st?
yes,
Nope.
Sue just shared,
Separate,
she
oh,
has a
right,
CERT meeting.
CERT. Sue, you and your CERT.
Well, I actually swapped, remember?
No, I know.
We did, we switched.
But could we move to the 20th?
We could, yeah.
I think I'm out of town the middle of June, but I could log in, I don't care. Maybe I can.
What time is
Maybe
your,
I'm
what time is
vacation.
your CERT meeting, Sue?
The CERT meeting on the 21st, it starts at 5 and goes till 6 or 6:15.
Again, it's certainly an option for you to meet without me. I'm not
Or
the elected official.
Darren would
Well-
probably be in charge.
I haven't missed any, so you could just meet without me, and you could just shuttle the messages.
I won't
back
be
and
here
forth.
either, it's
Oh,
Yeah.
never mind.
You wouldn't be here the
I
28th?
think we could go.
the 21st.
Just one
On the
time,
21st.
don't make it a habit.
Let's just keep it on the 28th.
Well, yeah, why don't you nominate a
member of staff to take place.
It's happened, it's been
We'll do
done.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Karen, I
I'm
don't know.
It's
fine
been
with
done
that.
before.
He's here anyway.
I'm running the video anyway.
Yeah. Well,
Sounds great. Now, I'll work with whoever we have here to make sure they have what we need, and it'll be probably
make it a quick one.
much smoother meeting without me.
Oh,
And then as
we'll
far
go
as
easy on them.
workshop date, we had talked about a few things. I have on my calendar that we're going to meet on June 7th, which is also a Tuesday at 5 o'clock.
I
Is that-
also have that on my calendar.
Okay. Okay.
June 7th?
June 7th, first.
I have
Tuesday.
workshop goals
Good, all right.
at 4:30.
4:30, is that the time?
Well, yeah, I put 5, but if we want to do earlier, I know some people can do a workshop
I
earlier.
like our workshops earlier because I feel like we can get out faster, but that's just me. What time?
You want to do 4:30 or even earlier?
I mean, we used to do 4:15, but I don't know if anybody else can do 4:15.
I can do it.
I can do it.
Wait, what is
Just tell me.
It's a Tuesday.
Tuesday, June 7th,
When is school finished?
not till the 17th.
Sure, let's do 4:30.
4:30?
Yeah,
Okay.
All right, great.
and then, like you said, the 28th.
Yeah.
And then May, all that is just the stuff for the budget.
Yeah.
Yep.
May 3rd.
Okay. Executive Director report, go.
All right, so just share a few updates on the district goals. There's actually been a lot of progress in a couple areas and not very much progress in some of the other areas. As I discussed, I'm in a lot of meetings, so when you have a really good one, it's like, it's really remarkable. It feels like everything's lining up. But the meeting that I had last Thursday with SEA and Quash Group, I'm feeling really, it was obvious that the architect that we're using right now, I think is going to be able to really move the occupancy process along in the right way. And maybe he learned from previous experience, or maybe it's just a better fit. But he has a plan to meet with the city, the building official, this week. I don't know if that conversation has happened yet or is scheduled, but I'm hoping, I shared with him our goals of having it done by the end of June. I think once I get the information and it's sort of firmed up, I will share it with the board, but I think you're going to be really pleased with the work that was put in. There's going to be some things that we'll need to take care of for firewall and life safety type improvements, but they're pretty minimal, and I don't think there'll be as much investment as we once were concerned about. And once we have that done, then I think there's a lot of options that will be available to us to move forward. We signed a contract with a grant writer. Moving down to number 2, sorry, we signed a contract with a grant writer to begin a fundraising plan and help us develop a strategy and then work on fundraising and grant writing for the SRC. I took some feedback that Erica and Celeste both provided me, and I've already shared that with her. And she's really excited about it. Her name's Tanya. She used to live in the Eugene area. She now lives in Missouri. But I don't think that will be a barrier. We are going to have her come to the area for a day or two in June sometime. So we're kind of working on firming some of that up, but really excited about that. She'll be on a kind of a 3-month,
Trial.
Rolling.
after 3 months we'll evaluate, make sure that it's a good fit. She'll be paid a set amount for those 3 months, and once that hopefully goes well, then we'll work out the rest of the details for the year. Strategic plan, I haven't really done that much, but I do have kind of some feelers out to other organizations, agencies that have done that recently, just to get a feel for how much it cost them and what their relationship with the contractor was like. As far as number 4, we're moving in a really positive direction. We've gotten feedback from the granting agencies that we applied for that they, not only received our grant and thought it looked great, but I think there's a strong likelihood of funding opportunities, at least with a couple of them, maybe all 3. So I think that's really strong. And then
Who wrote those grants?
Melissa did.
Nice.
Yeah.
She's amazing.
I think, I can skip 5 through 8 unless there's specific questions. If you look closely, you can see the progress indicator may have moved a little bit, but honestly, there's been, a lot of stuff going on that, we just haven't gotten to all the goals yet. So that's why hopefully we can be patient with each other and hopefully that'll.
Are we still struggling to
Busy for the
find
year.
maintenance staff for the weekends? I thought we had hired, no?
We have hired, maintenance staff for the weekends, but it, hasn't gone perfectly.
Okay.
So, still kind of working on that.
Are we doing, like, rentals on the weekends?
We are,
Okay.
yeah. When we do those, we either have, the lifeguards clean after, or we assign a different staff member that's not usually in charge of cleaning to come in and clean. For instance, this Sunday, I will be cleaning the, locker rooms if anybody wants to join me after 7.
Who's coming in on Sunday?
I don't remember. I think the rental is actually either Friday night or Saturday sometime, but we just want to have it before
Monday.
Before Monday.
Do you want to help?
No,
Isn't that the Sip and Savor?
I'll be there after 6. Be full and happy.
I've heard Darren does a really good job.
With cleaning?
Mm-hmm.
Really? It's not what I was just interested. All agree.
So, can I just ask, on number 7, isn't the software already in and running and?
So the financial software is the employee payroll or timekeeping system is in. I'd say we're 90% of that is like done. There's still some hiccups occasionally. What we haven't implemented yet is the point of sale software called Tyler Parts. So that's kind of, I would say, I asked Darren to maybe delay on his hard work on that because we were working hard on getting the budget ready. So I think we'll probably pivot to that over the next month or two and hopefully have it ready in the next quarter or so.
Is that strictly point of sale, or is that also external scheduling software?
That is, yes, scheduling for all of our facilities.
It is, it includes all that?
Yes, yeah. it's all-
I think you mentioned before that with the new website, there was gonna be some new ability to schedule online.
Yeah, you'll actually be able to do
Like a request?
request for facility rentals through the web,
That'll be nice.
the portal.
Oh.
Yeah, it's much more robust that way than our current software is.
For number 8, the fee review, I just thought I'd share it, like, in my mind, the fee review and the strategic plan and the occupancy permit are like all just kind of need to happen at the same time, but be intertwined and like,
Okay.
yeah. Because I feel like as we, get the occupancy permit and get our strategic plan and then start new programming, we want to have those fees all ready to like, here's your fees, here's the new programming.
So do you want to do a fee review of current and existing programs and possibly look at the adjustment before then? Because I feel like that part, like that larger discussion might be, several months, maybe even a year out. But there's kind of I guess the feedback I've gotten from the board and from staff too is that we've delayed on adjusting our fees for some time, and maybe this is a good time with returning our service levels to normal.
Well, and also that we have some analysis from the SFA group in here that speaks some to this, gives some guidance that can point to. I mean, I think, to me, when I think about, if you're going to readjust the rates, it seems to me that you need some data. So first you need just to do an environmental scan.
Sure.
What other facilities,
Yeah.
what are going rates at other facilities? I feel personally that we need a lot of distinction between what the local taxpayer pays versus what a tourist pays. Like double, triple, maybe more, like
Out of district.
out of district,
Yes.
like it's just the same as when, like not a 10% difference, because we already have a local base that's paying for all of this, right, that pays for everything. And so I'd like to see a big distinction myself.
Are
But
you talking about having 3 rates or or just one in district, one out of district? So
Yes.
even like a Gerhart resident would pay
I would say.
They're not
all
paying
out of
taxes.
district.
a triple?
I mean, all of us already pay, what is it, $400, $500
I feel like
to belong if you're an in-district,
Yeah.
person. And I feel like that, it would be the same as if I belonged to a Y in
Because
Boston.
we offer the ability to buy into the district, correct?
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like we need to make that incentive an incentive
Right.
to buy into the district.
Okay.
Yeah.
Need
But,
leverage.
yes, but to your point, yes, I think this needs to come sooner.
So would you support me bringing something to the board like in the next month or two that says we're changing our out-of-district rate is roughly 33% more than in-district?
Well, how does that align with the budget, maybe, like the budget process with that?
Yeah.
Like, could you do that in time and kind of tie it with that, maybe?
Probably wouldn't like adjust the budget, but I think the numbers, it wouldn't differentiate the budgeted numbers so much that it would like throw everything out of whack. I don't
Yeah.
think.
I mean,
That'd be a good time to do it.
I think this is where you do some math and figure, I don't know what the average taxpayer here in district pays.
Yeah.
But I
But
don't
out of
remember what my
district should
tax
be-
bill was, but it was
yeah.
like $400 a year or something that I
Yeah,
contribute to
probably
Park and Rec.
around a little less than that, but yeah,
So-
that's probably pretty.
So I'm
standard.
paying about $30 a month already to belong to the district, and that should just be taken into account, I think, when you're charging people. When I would go travel back to DC, for instance, when I wanted to do one swim session, one lap swim at a Y, it was $25 for one visit.
Yeah.
Now, if I lived there, I'd be a Y member, and I would pay a monthly fee, right? And I wouldn't have to pay for each swimming. But since I was coming in and sort of a one-use person, it's just really high.
Sure.
And so I think we should reflect that in, not that it needs to be $25 for a lap swim, but to get the idea of,
We need,
Yeah.
we need, the
A lot of
folks that are
visitors.
already supporting our district need to not take the brunt of an EP increase.
correct. And I think that will set us up to incentivize Gerhart and Cannon Beach to consider joining the district
And once we
and contributing
are,
to the larger base.
well, and I think once we have our, expanded programming available, I think
Yeah,
that's
that's
a
gonna
great,
be the key, yeah.
great
Right, so
opportunity
all of
to
that-
come.
Right, the combination of things, I
It's
think
just
will help.
all entwined.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you catch all that?
Were you, I mean, was that like tongue in cheek? 100%, 200%, or was that like?
No, I mean, I'm happy to help
I'm
run
okay.
some numbers.
No,
but
no,
I-
like we've done this, I think I've done this probably 4 times.
Yeah,
But the last couple of times was before this group's
oh, I remember.
ride, and it didn't ever end up transpiring where we did it. So I guess what I'm hearing is bring something back to the board that's maybe not even a rate increase for in-district, but changes the out-of-district
Correct.
rate.
Yes.
Percentage difference from 33 to something much more substantial, like 100% or something like that.
I would call some of your partners, like Halton Hills, the Shahid.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, see what they're
A
doing.
lot of people from out of town are used to paying significantly more
Yeah.
than we charge for out of district.
What do we
understand.
pay for, what do we do for a one-time drop-in lap swim, for instance?
Yeah, I can pull it up. I don't know if you have like,
6 and 10.
yeah.
What?
Six
Yeah, so if
for
we're
in-district.
charging an in-district person who already is paying taxes, $30 a month to be part of, a member of our district, and we're gonna charge them $6, yeah, I think our out-of-district should be 15.
If I go up to Portland to go to the Multnomah Club, I, as a member, wind up paying like $30 just to walk in the door.
Yeah.
So I don't walk in the door.
Yeah. But I mean, I do think it has to be considerably heavier for,
Isn't it? I
we have to
feel like-
respect that our taxpayers are paying for the district, and then.
I agree.
And the 110 cost recovery, I remember seeing the chart that was the kind of the arrow. And I think part of our rebalancing of even the in-district fees, there was the greater good kind of slide scale.
Sure.
And so I think that, I think some of our fees could go down.
For in-district.
While others go up. And I think we need to kind of rebalance and review all of those. But I would love to start with the out-of-district. So I think that would be a good place to start.
I think Sunset Family Fitness is like 13, 15 for drop-in, something like that.
Yeah, and we should, I think it actually makes it so that we're not cutting from their business, particularly if we're gonna put in, we should not be undercutting. The rec center should be cheaper for people in district that are, or
Right.
contributing to it for the tax base, but we shouldn't undercut, a local business that's doing that same service for.
Well, if
other
anything, I
people.
think it could potentially give them more, if you heard people say, well, fine, I'm gonna go here.
Right.
But if we make, I think if we have that, those enticing aspects, then people are gonna just have to.
Do you feel like this, percentage difference should be that significant for, like, childcare programs as well? Or are you talking about just?
I think we want to incentivize, here's the thing, is, first of all, the places that we're looking at drawing from, Deer Heart and Cannon Beach, have, higher family incomes than we do in Seaside, generally. And so, and I think if we should be they're not paying into that, like, we have to respect that $400 a year
Sure.
that taxpayers are paying either through their property taxes or through the, pass on through their rents, right? So that's getting passed, so they're already paying that. So we can't we can't look at the fees getting paid as the only payment an individual is making. So individuals are paying their $400 per year plus
No, I get it.
the fee,
I
plus
guess
the drug.
I would be, I don't know, I'm just.
You live in Deer Heart.
I don't use the childcare programs. I do live in Gerhart. I feel like I pay for lots of other things that I don't use. I understand the structure. I didn't like live in Gerhart to avoid.
What I would.
I guess I'm concerned, like, here childcare, access to childcare is like a significant barrier, and we're gonna charge you, you know, a lot more now.
But they hope that the city will join then, that those districts, that they'll.
Right.
To be honest, what other options do they have?
Well, and Gerhart has childcare.
Sort of,
Well,
yeah.
they have-
I mean,
Yeah.
you know, and the incentive is that they join the district. They pay the.
And they pay their
fee,
part too.
And they join the district.
Otherwise, the other way to look at it, Skylar, is you're asking the people that are in district to subsidize your heart.
Right.
Well, and that's what people think.
Subsidize Cannon
Yeah.
Beach Road.
That's what people, you know, some of the people I feel like who are kind of naysayers of what we're doing think that, you know, that we're not forcing others to.
And we need to raise funds, but at the same time, we pledge not to raise taxes.
Yeah.
So this is a way to do
Yeah,
that.
and I think, I agree with you, like, a complete review of the fees and potential even decreases.
In
That would
certain
be,
areas.
that would be a pretty big thing to, like, publicize in a way. I mean, obviously, there's that other side of it.
Yeah,
You're not feeling it.
Well, like, I mean, I don't know if you've heard about, like, cost of living around here, and, like, we're gonna pay our employees a lot more, and it's hard for me to bite off that possibility. Now, if there was a substantial increase in a different area, like, if you're hard joined the district, for instance, then,
I love developing a new rate schedule
Yeah.
and going to Deer Heart City Council and talking about the proposed rate structure that's going to
Yeah,
be
maybe
happening.
it's not.
This is what we have to do.
In
Right.
partnership with them.
And that we ask them to join sooner than later.
let
Yep.
me, work on this, and I'll bring something to you.
Okay. Thank you, Skylar.
Yeah.
You didn't have enough to do that.
I was gonna say.
Some of
You
the
have
goals.
in your spare time?
Okay,
Some of the goals.
all right,
I can go real quick through
Yeah,
these
go.
other things. I already talked about the grant writer. As
Yep.
far as special events, I mean, this is a very busy time. We had an awesome experience at the egg hunt.
we had perfect weather.
Last Saturday, the weather was nice for the only like 3-hour nice window
I was
time that we got.
sleeping after my
Um,
booster shot.
I think we had, it's hard to measure, but I think we had around 1,500 plus there. Gave out 8,000 eggs, had great support from sponsors. This Sunday, we have Sip and Savor, from 4 to 6:30 here at the Bob Chisholm. So I would love to have you involved or volunteer if you're interested. Budget committee meeting is next Tuesday at 5 p.m. Tentatively planning that second budget committee meeting on May 17th. I think I put 6 because I know Sue had a conflict and we were hoping to have it
I'm
together.
having a CERT meeting.
We have staff training coming up right around then, our 100K relay, and then if you're into golf, you can play in our foundation golf tournament on Friday, June 3rd. It will be at the Highlands Golf Course this year in Gerhart. They're gonna charge us 3 times. No, I'm just kidding. But appreciate your time. I know it's late, so that's it for me unless you have questions.
Any questions for Skylar? I think we kind of hit on
Great
all
job.
that.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna get a hold of me, so I'll show up and do what I need to do on Sunday.
Well, I don't know how I'm gonna get a hold of you, but I guess I'll call
Ditto.
you. I'll call you.
Yeah, ditto.
Yeah, you're both on my list, so appreciate your,
And then, do you want help cleaning at the pool?
no, I was.
He was being facetious.
I would be glad to help you.
I know you would, so I appreciate that.
Board comment, Erica, go.
I think, one thing that kind of went away when, like, I don't know, growing up here, I think it was like really easy to access certain facilities and, you know, it was just kind of a lot more freedom. And obviously as there's more compliance and liabilities in the new era or whatever. But I think what you guys have been doing for the community with the new space is like you're really flexible with working with people, you're approachable, you know, you're like, I think we're gonna continue to get more and more people wanting to use this space and not the other spaces just because of that, you know, because we're being flexible, we're working with people, we're, you know, the red tape is there. Obviously, we're trying to stay compliant, but we're not going overboard, you know? And I think that's been a problem for a while, and people are realizing that it's just much easier to work with you guys. So, I mean, I feel that way. So, yeah, good job. And I think, you know, obviously, like, the Broadway Field thing is kind of close to my heart, but I think this would be a really good opportunity to, like, reset with them and try to, you know, improve that partnership a bit, so. Good work, and I know it's been hard to deal with others, so.
Yeah. Waiting. Are you headed somewhere great
So-
this weekend?
Yeah, Jazara's going to the, El Cerrito Hoop Shoot in Chicago.
Oh my gosh, say hello to my son.
I haven't packed and just ate. Gotta do that. No, yeah, and you guys have been awesome with that. I didn't want to talk personally, but thank you for your support with that.
Hoping that she, does well, and you guys have a fun time.
Thanks.
Sue?
So we covered a whole lot of topics, and I am, appreciative of the expertise of, our Kern Thompson Association, and again, what a good decision we made last year, as a board, that we work together, and I really appreciate, rather than dealing with the consternation and the negative types of things we dealt with, we're working as a team to get through all these good things for the district. And I can't say enough good things about how grateful, rather than, I look forward to our board meetings. Today, it was like, wow, there's a lot to cover, and making sure we give adequate coverage. We've got, I really appreciate Chris and Darren doing what they did with the budget, and I am so grateful that I got to just walk in for some other, I think it was a computer issue, and I wind up seeing them working on, tinkering with budget. And I thought, isn't it great that they're sitting in this open space and they're working this, this through and collaborating well. And I wasn't sitting there to be a fly on the wall, but I very much appreciated the constructive work that I saw as a team that extends from, down from you, Skylar. I mean, you hired all these people, and...
Not there.
Well, whatever the case, I just see a team that works well and extends to the board. It just took a little time to get there. And I'm just grateful for that, the pleasure of serving our community with a team that wants to serve our community. And I just appreciate being here. Thank you.
Thanks, Sue. Bud?
Yeah, I'd echo. I think we have so much open road ahead of us that is so optimistic and so fantastic, and we just have such a strong foundation, and we've got, our financials look good. I know that we have some areas that we're catching up in staffing and so forth, but overall stuff just looks so good, and that's a testament to you and your team, Skylar, and so thank you for that. And yeah, and I'm glad that, well, at least it appears that the board is able to support you in doing that good work, so that you're not spending your time, navigating other difficulties, and that's great.
I'm difficult as enough.
Your turn, Mike.
Everything's been said and been well said, and, I just want to share, kind of a personal thing. I guess I just came back from Arizona, and I'm proud to report that my granddaughter became certified as a lifeguard and got hired at $15 an hour to start, and they were offering $2,500 bonuses. They need lifeguards in Phoenix. They can't find them down there. But, I'm trying to lure her here to kind of apply for the district and maybe work here next summer. This summer not going to work out, but I appreciate the difficulty of getting employees. It happens in Phoenix where, there are probably dozens of pools. Appreciate all the work you've done, Scott and the staff, and I like this new gadget. This works really smoothly.
Good.
Except I can't scroll back through it. But, thank you very much for it. I'm sorry I was late with my comments, but I took 14 stitches in my left hand on April 6th, and, just got them out when I returned from Arizona. But I wasn't typing too much. Couldn't use my left hand too much.
Lindsay and Megan passed their.
You did?
So
Yeah.
that's a huge kudos to
They did
us that
great.
they passed theirs. So now we're one of the few certified instructor lifeguard training program, whatever the whole title thing was. I think that's a fabulous testament to our district and to Lindsay and Megan and the program that we can offer. Yeah, I just met with somebody who's going to, today at my daughter's T-ball, and she's going to apply for a position here tomorrow. And one of the things that I told her, because she saw I was reading through stuff, and she said, do you work there? I said, no. And I said, but, I've been involved with the district for a really long time, and one of the things that I have always appreciated about the district, and I have felt very strongly speaks testaments to the district, is the longevity of the employees and the culture that says we have. Because people don't stay if it's toxic. And how long have you worked here, Darren?
18?
Yeah.
Or 19 years, yeah.
Wow.
So, I just think we have something really special. I'm super proud to be a part of it. I think our board finally has gotten to a place where we are doing good things and good works, and I'm proud of us. And I appreciate the report from Kern, knowing that we're on a good path and can continue to move forward. Yeah, that's about all I have. So thank you, everybody. And yes, go ahead.
Can I say one, I forgot, this morning I had a man come up to a group of us, and he needed showers, and I was so glad that I could call here and find, because I said, the warming center's not available, that's all done, but let me see what I can get you. And so we not only had the capacity to take care of his needs, and he has, a very tragic story, but just a basic shower, and then we hooked him up with some other spaces to get other needs met. And I just was so grateful that I happened to be in the right place to be able to say, yeah, let me phone and get the information for him. And he's really very grateful that there's a giving, caring community around him.
Yeah.
And that's partly what we offer through Sunset Empire. Thank you.
Well, thank you,
for letting
everybody.
me speak twice.
No, you're good. Meeting adjourned.
Hey.
I've read the homeless ordinance that's going around, and